Welcome everybody to semi-finals day here at the NLC Full Open. My name is Scoundrel and we are welcoming Gulborg and Orcs back to the desk. Now before we get in today, got to say thank you to our sponsors, El Giganten, Corsair and MasterCard. I tried my best, everybody. I tried. I tried to say it better. Tried to say it better than I usually do. But of course, yes, it is semi-finals coming up this weekend. Then we obviously have our finals tomorrow. Let's take a look at the play of the day, though. You can get involved on social media. Check it out on our social media channels. You have lots of prizes to be won, and you can see we're up to day 7. 7,200 RP for 10 winners. That's a lot of RP, guys. Go and check it out on social media, and you can buy yourself a few new skins. So make sure you go and vote for the play of the day. And of course, we are coming into the oh, sorry, Orcs, go.
Is that too much RP though? Like, I mean, it's getting to the point where 15,000, is what's going to be for the finals. Is that too much RP? Can one person spend all that RP? That's what I'm asking. That's my question.
You get two Seraphine skins, right? The new Ultimate or something like that.
Well, 1.75, I think, at this point. No.
Guys,
expensive skins.
It's clearly a lot of RP, maybe too much for a single person to wield in one go, but that's what we do here at the NLC. We provide you with the tools to push the boundaries. And of course, we also have our brackets, which I need to show you, because obviously we're getting to the last 4 teams of the tournament, and I kind of want to show you how we got here. As you can see, the quarterfinals that I unfortunately missed, but these guys were here for over the last couple of days took place. ENCE beat out Unique 2-0, Barrage won against Trick 2-0, Dusty beat Viking 2-0, and the only series that had a bit of spice to it, Envision versus Absolved, and Envision, again, criminally underrated, especially by myself, have managed to get their way through to those semi-finals, and we will now have ENCE versus Barrage to kick things off, and then Dusty versus Envision. But guys, let's talk about what happened in those couple of quarterfinals over the last couple of days. It was, especially that Envision Absolved series, I heard it was a bit of a crazy one.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately in that series, it very much felt like Absolved came in and looked like the stronger team. A lot of the analysts felt they were going to look like the stronger side. And after game 1, a lot of people already say, yeah, this looks convincing. We've had several 2-0 quarterfinals. It looked like it was good and similarly, but Envision managed to answer back, managed to find strength, and particularly draft a strong comp that Music could really follow through on.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please, Gulborg.
All right. Yeah, a lot of it comes from the solo lanes as well. Orcs was quickly touching on Music as well, right? But it is also Music's, the way he's able to get the solo laners ahead, specifically Icebreaker as well, and twist on, champions like Akali, as we're seeing here in the highlight, although that was not the champion it kind of made it through, but it was certainly an interesting series.
Yeah, and obviously the other series that we saw was the ENCE Unique series. I think a lot of people, again, kind of underrating ENCE a little bit coming into that, and it was Unique that got absolutely blasted 2-0. I think overall, a lot of our quarterfinals appeared relatively one-sided, but that Absolved one was definitely the bit of the killer.
Yeah, it most certainly was, but it is also this kind of tournament where we have the open format. We already have some invited teams, and I feel like the teams that made it through the opens, it's really only the teams outside of Barrage and ENCE who kind of stood, who's a new form team that's left. Like coming into the tournament, people felt like Trick was the favorite, Barrage was the favorite, not only because they have skilled players, but because this roster actually stuck together. And that's also why teams like ENCE, when they go against teams like Unique, there's a lot more experience coming into it. There's a lot more support from organizations maybe as well. There's a lot of more things that can just give you the upper hand, and I feel like we also saw that in the game against ENCE and Unique. I feel like Unique can be proud of themselves for making it to quarters, because they did put up a fight. They were criminally underrated, in my opinion, by a lot of the analysts when they made it through, and I think that they should be happy with how far they got.
And I think specifically looking at ENCE, they've been a team who, over the course of the NLC summer as well, have been a bit inconsistent. We've had moments where they have looked like a weaker side, and we haven't put too much stock into them. But then they've also had some games where they have looked like the real deal. And I think we saw that against Unique. So I don't think we should look at that and be like, oh, Unique are just weak and ENCE just managed to beat them. I think ENCE were playing on their A game, and if they bring that game today, they could actually look to challenge Barrage, because Barrage are another team who aren't always at their 100%, and obviously it's granted their 100% is extremely good, but it's how they play on the day is the critical thing.
I think I kind of want to dive into that first matchup, of course, ENCE versus Barrage. And I think you kind of already alluded to it, Dan, but Barrage do come in as the clear favourites. I think Barrage have been the favourites for the tournament. I think since we started for this entire tournament, the NLC Full Open, we kind of said Barrage are the favourites, and they are still here. They are still smashing. They're still doing incredibly well. I believe they only dropped one game all tournament so far. I think that was right at the start too. So I do think Barrage are kind of on a bit of a steamroll at this point in time. So that brings the question. ENCE, they're facing a very tough opponent. How do they win?
So ENCE, obviously, as you said yourself, facing very tough opponent, and I don't think it's just team-wise. I think it's going head-to-head in all roles on the map, where you can argue that Barrage is looking superior as well. Obviously, we've always talked about Barrage bot lane as a kind of weak side, but the problem is when that Barrage bot lane is at their 100%, as Orcs mentioned as well, they are extremely deadly. But what we've seen so far is a lot of it comes from the early game through Taiki, if he's able to get the laners ahead. If Taiki is having a good day, most of the time you can count the rest of ENCE to have a good and decent mid game, where they sometimes will fumble the ball a bit. We saw that in the early stages of the tournament, but going against Unique, we really saw how easily they could drive home the games with like sub 30 games.
Yeah, and I think for me in particular, you honed in on Taiki, but I'm looking at the mid jungle matchup because I think bot lane definitely has shown that they can be a vulnerability. Doxy, even in the top lane in this tournament, has been punished before, but I just think it doesn't matter at all, because if you let Maxi and Senkox get the ball rolling, even if the side lanes get punished, they'll be able to find an advantage. They'll be able to move to those side lanes to cover them, and the end result is you're going to come into the mid game really far behind. So we saw some really solid play from Simply and Taiki. They absolutely need that, because if they can win the mid jungle matchup, I think they can transition that outwards. And the critical things are we need mid priority, we need to be finding a pick that can contest that, and we need a good jungle matchup for Taiki, because if they lose mid jungle, I think the game just falls apart.
And that's the thing, it's exactly the jungle matchup as a viewer we need to pay attention to today, specifically because although they both are playing carry junglers, I feel like they have a different kind of style, where Maxi is the kind of jungler that will outperform you in terms of jungle pathing and the intelligence wise. He'll get a lead through his own solo laners. Taiki on the other hand will do the same, but he does it in the opposite direction, kind of like he gets the solo laners ahead. When the solo laners ahead, then they can start to facilitate Taiki, whereas Maxi doesn't need that little help in the beginning from the solo laners where he helped them. He does it by himself, so that's the tall task, and that's why, as Orc said, it is so important you get a mid lane priority.
So that sort of brings me into that question about where do we think priorities in this draft lie? Like you talked a little bit about Doxy, Dan. Like, is that something that we're expecting to see any kind of spice in the top lane? We know that he has got those carries in his repertoire. Is the bot lane matchup going to be critically important, knowing that Ray and Vendelbo do sometimes have the sort of the I guess the weaker side of the Barrage roster? Like where are we expecting draft priority to lie?
I feel like, honestly, for me, I think, as I said, mid-jungle is the big thing. I think jungle matchups going to be highly prioritized early. These teams are picking junglers early in the rotation. I think mid lane as well, Orion and Syndra are two big priority contesters that are going to be thrown about. I think for top lane, honestly, I could see Doxy just reverting back to his safe weak side picks. We did see Nilly willing to take a more aggressive top side pick in the Jax that was actually a counter, so potentially that comes out. But for the most part, I feel like the sides of the map, it's going to kind of be, oh, if we get an opportunity to counter pick, we'll take it. But for the most part, it's just matching what the other team has. I expect the bot lane to be like a consistent 2v2 on both sides. Your standard 80 carries with the long range early priority. Potentially an Ezreal could come out, but then supports having a sort of stable matchup. So neither bot lane's going to find a massive advantage until other people start moving down. I think that's a pivotal thing, because realistically, I think you can pick the best matchup in the world in the bot lane, but if the enemy mid lane has got priority and is roaming down, it really doesn't matter that much.
I think it's kind of funny that, if we take this matchup back to summer, because when these two teams faced in NLC summer, we had, I think the most broken lane back then was Ezreal Karma, something like those lanes. It was something with Karma. And we had been praising the end spot lane. We had been not completely just dumpstering on the Barrage bot lane, but we have not given them too many praises. And then just after that, we kept switching between, okay, which of these bot lanes are actually good? Because these guys just lost with Ezreal Karma, but these guys completely just inted it. And it's cool to see that they've come so far on a journey where they're more consistent, but we still every now and then get that flashback back to, let's limit test a little bit. And that's also what I think we'll pivot a little bit into today, is that you need to be good at punishing your opponent as well, because all in all, we are not going to get perfect macro. We're not going to get perfect gameplay. And it is actually crucial that when your opponent makes a mistake, because they probably will, you are there to capitalize on it.
Well, guys, let's before we head over towards our first champions of the day, let's have a look at the predictions that we have for our talent. And
wow,
I think this may be the first day ever. Look, I think obviously we have less to choose from today. There are only 2 options, 2 games for everybody. But it is Barrage and Dusty across the board. Everyone extremely confident in what would be the I would say series favorites. I think clear series favorites in both of these series. So if it were to be an upset, it would be an upset for every single person on the desk today and on the cast as well. And I feel a little bit bad for our second series. I don't want to get too much into it, but I have a little bit like ENCE. I have criminally underrated Envision this entire tournament. Like I don't think I ever voted for Envision, because I think I've just massively underrated them, and they've won every stage. And now it gets to a point where it's like, oh wow, Envision are actually doing really well. They're against Dusty, who obviously quite clearly are one of the favorites for the tournament. So it's, if Envision win here, like I'm looking at them thinking, wow, okay, maybe even potentially upsetting Barrage in the finals. Like that's clearly the storyline that they're going for. But in this first series, like we've talked a little bit about how ENCE can potentially win, but Barrage are the favorites still, I think.
Yeah, I think in both series there are clear favorites, and I know it looks a bit rough to see, all of the analysts and the casters saying, "Oh, we think this team's going to win." But I want to, say that if they don't bring their A game, there is definitely a lot of potential for upsets. Just because we haven't voted for the other side, there is still definitely the potential. Just this late in the tournament, with the consistency we've seen, particularly from Barrage, I feel like you would kind of have to put them in as the favorites and as a likely team to come out with a win, but that doesn't mean that there's no possibility the other team can challenge. And that's the big thing I'm always hoping for, is that we get those upsets. The likes of Envision, who, as we said, a lot of people didn't expect to come this far, but have consistently shown that they can outperform. 2 more outperformances and they've won the whole thing. This series, the next series, and that's it. So we are late in the tournament, a lot on the line, and just a little more push and you could make a big break for it. But like I said, it gets tough at this point. Barrage, not an easy opponent, and neither are Dusty.
I mean, it's serious when Hiprain doesn't get bribed to vote for Barrage, and he votes for Barrage anyway. So that's how that Barrage come into this as a favorite. But like, guys, we do have that first game of our semi-final on the way. We're going to go to a short break, and when we are back, we'll have our first champion selected and ready to go.
In the twilight before the dark hour, and this time I better get it right, 'cause maybe we're all passengers on the inside. I had something nice to say, I'm thinking of that blind, that you are. I never wandered far, I never set my standards too low, and I never wandered far, and I don't mind, take the lead and drive me far away. You drive me far away. You drive me. When the night comes creeping in to say goodnight, and the daybreak starts within in the blink of an eye, and the dream is like a highway wandered far, and I don't mind. Take the lead and drive me far away. You drive me far away. You drive me. You drive me far away. You drive me.
Waking up, the sun is rising. We can go anywhere, do anything. Put your hand in my hand, let's explore. Travel places no one's been before. Leave your fears and hear you calling. Wherever you go, wherever you are, your beauty's unique. Melody so sweet, our differences make our union so great. Together we weave perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. Together we will be perfect harmony. Let's get lost in a forest of green. Lose ourselves in the blue of the sea. Paint the world any color we choose, or a rainbow with all of the hues. Make the world the way that we dream.
Welcome back to the NLC Full Open, everybody. We are heading towards our first game of our semi-final. I can't believe it. We're at the semi-finals already. It kind of feels like it's flown by over the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty crazy. We have, obviously, ENCE versus Barrage. ENCE, I think, surprising a lot of people to get to this point, but they are still an incredibly strong team. We shouldn't underestimate them. And even though Barrage come in as the favorites, as Dan said, all it takes is a slight misperformance on the day. All it takes is a little slip-up, and you can capitalize on that. And ENCE are definitely a team that can do that with a very skilled roster. And so, yeah, we're looking towards that draft now. And as you said, Dan, you really feel like, or even both of you kind of mentioned that the jungle mid is going to be the priority for both these teams.
Yeah, 100%. And it either comes down to, okay, are we going for some global? We know Simply has been very fond of this Syndra, but we also know from further days before that he also likes the Galio, the likes of Twisted Fate, where you can open up the map as well. And you know what? I actually had some decent expectations coming into ENCE with this one. They are a roster who looked decent in summer, but I had hoped that they would elevate their level towards this Fall Cup instead, just because that you stay together, it's the same teammates, you can evolve your playstyle, you can evolve your atmosphere as a team. There's a lot of things that goes into it. So I am very happy that ENCE had made it this far, and I would be even I, a Danish fanboy, would love to see them upset this one. But obviously, Barrage is the favorite in this one.
Yeah, and I mean,
Aren't there a lot of Danes on Barrage, by the way? I'm pretty sure the Barrage roster is Danish, is it not?
Yeah, was that what I said? I said I'd be happy if ENCE upset it.
I thought you said ENCE was like the
yeah,
Danish
ENCE
roster.
is
So I was
finished.
like, oh.
Barrage is Danish.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But we are seeing, I mean, we said the importance of the jungle matchup there. There's a lot of jungle bans coming out already, pretty much sweeping a lot of the power picks. There is still the Hecarim open and available as one of these ones that are still standing, but looks like the priority is going towards this Ashe instead. And this is something that actually ENCE were banning themselves in their series. So clearly a high priority in this champion. And it sets up a lot of those engages in the later stage. Also a solid bot lane pick. But this does hand over priority in terms of jungle picks to Barrage. With so few left on the table, why not take the Hecarim?
And I would love if they just straight up paired it up with the Orianna, and you can always go the Syndra, not Syndra, but the Senna farm as well as an AD carry later on the line. We know how volatile Hecarim can be if he's suddenly just a ghost that ramps up you after being in that scenery. There's a lot of combos you can enable Maxi on this Hecarim as well as, and as Orcs already said. the champion pool for the junglers, you're going down to the A/B tiers now of junglers you need to pick.
Yeah, and I think you have to secure it in this rotation for ENCE, otherwise you're really going to be struggling. I like the Syndra pickup. It's one of the picks these two teams have been toying with. Gives priority and can actually challenge the Orianna pretty effectively, so Barrage take that on their third pick. They do have something to answer, but I expect the jungler to come in now for Taiki. I will say the Leona as well, something that allows Wendelbo to potentially roam and assist. And also, I think if you handed over Ashe, Leona to the side of ENCE, you really would end up struggling to contest priority. And I think the supports are the danger. When we're talking mid-jungle, if they can get into the mix and start making an impact, you will be in trouble. But I see the Ornn come in, which, you know, by all means, a strong contested pick. But this suggests to me that Taiki has another pick he's ready to default to. And at this point, with this many jungle bans, I think he's kind of just like, well, you know, at this point, they're going to be kind of trying to just randomly pick junglers to ban away. There's not really anything that's firmly in the meta to start banning. So I think he's kind of, at this point, what's the point in prioritizing the jungler?
And it's exactly what we talked about. We may, you see Doxy and Nilly usually go and carry champions. They want to exceed pressure, but specifically in this matchup, it's no surprise that they want to be a team player instead. And now we actually see Sencox. He did default onto this Galio. We talked about the roaming map plays that we can see through Galio, Twisted Faith. And I love that Galio is paired up with Hecarim. It just gives you that extra shield. It gives you that extra engage when you get the onslaught of shadows in. You got the Galio follow-up. So you've already got a pretty good team fighting cocktail with Leona, Hecarim, and Galio on the side of Barrage.
I wonder if you just ban the Olaf Lee Sin. You just say, okay, Olaf Lee Sin, bye-bye, and then just pick whatever's left. Like, go for it, find something.
I think, I mean, they go for that, but I think at this point, Taiki has to have a reserve pick. I don't think you can go into this. You can't go into this rotation and not pick your jungler without being like, okay, we have this pocket pick. We don't think they're going to ban it. Or we have, you know, 3 picks that we're happy with in this situation. Because at this point, again, you're not getting an S tier jungler anyway, so not as much priority. It gives them a strong top laner. But I will say, you know, I'm agreeing with Goldborg on the strength of Scalio, but in terms of dive, Barrage already have so much threat onto the Ashe and the Syndra. Mobile carries, strong backline, but there is a lot of threat already coming through. And I think at this point, I think you kind of have your choice whether you want AD carry or jungler. There's no pressure to take either in this situation because obviously you've seen the sorry, not AD carry or jungler. You would take AD carry here and you'll have your top as the counter pick for Barrage. I think for Doxy, I think there's not too many supports that would be taken in the situation you'd be threatened by. And I think Jhin makes a lot of sense. I think Senna, I actually probably might have preferred Senna here. Just the ult over the top of the dive, I think would have been really strong. But they opt to go for Jhin, which makes sense. Both picks pretty strong in the current meta.
And they're in a perfect position there. All they really need is just to find that backline damage now. As Orc said, you already know the top laner, that's on. You already know the AD carry, that's Ashe. So you don't have to worry about pick order. You would just leave it for top lane because Doxy will have a bit more of intel what kind of pick he would have to choose and what factors he's going into here. So we are seeing some disengage, and I do feel like the ENCE roster needs some more disengage. The peel you get out of Braum is really important against a backline composition like this. And we see Taiki going back to something he played a lot in summer that we haven't really seen at all lately. It is the Trundle, and I said A tier, but I think we're going down to B tier of junglers right now.
Yeah, this is definitely something we haven't seen in a while, and it kind of makes sense. I would have expected Barrage to ban this away. I think Taiki clearly ready with this one, but there's decent targets on the other side in terms of the Galio and the Hecarim you can ult, but it's definitely not in that S tier, as you said. The Braum, though, I do like. Good matchup into Leona, helps sort of provide that peel for the side. But I think Gangplank really rounds out this composition for Barrage well. So many globals, huge pressure, good mid matchup, good top matchup, strong jungle matchup, and bot, you're not going to be super aggressive, but that's what we expected. Leona's not going to really be able to go in against Ashe Braum, but she doesn't need to when the rest of the team are making work. I would say overall, I'm pretty heavily favoring Barrage coming out of this draft. I think they got everything they wanted.
Yeah, I think even for me.
Sorry.
No. I was going to say, even for me, I'm looking at it and thinking that the team fight capabilities of Barrage eclipse ENCE. I don't even know how ENCE win in a team fight. Like, if you got to a pure 5v5 and, you know, we're at a decent stage in the game, I actually don't know how ENCE win. I don't think they've got the damage. I don't think they can deal with the zone control and the dive potential of the Barrage roster. I think Barrage have kind of won this.
They have, but the thing is, it's not a perfect game. They have tools to punish here. You got good pick potential with the Syndra, you got the Ash Arrow, you got the Peel with the Braum, and we kind of just need to see ENCE finding these windows where you can actually get something done. If they are trading objectives, all right, get something on the other side of the map, because you just need to find elites in early game, because as you said, Scoundrel, there's not a lot of damage. You need to be ahead of the curve to actually deal damage in this team comp.
Yeah, it feels like it has to be like a snowball from skirmishes, utilizing the smaller skirmishes that favor Syndra, I suppose, in that circumstance. We'll have to see how that rolls out. We're going to hand it over to our post-draft dribble. It's going to be it's going to be Hiprain and Jamada. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for the dribbling, Scoundrel. Hello and welcome to the Caster Desk. My name is Hiprain and I am joined by the caster with the best hair on the NLC. It's Jamada making your debut. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I can't believe Scoundrel rounded off like that.
Yeah, well, you get used to it, honestly. Some of his handoffs are interesting, to say the least. But let's talk a little bit about this game between ENCE and Barrage, because obviously we're all favoring Barrage. I mean, looking at this roster, they went to the European Masters under Riddle. This is the exact same team that came second in the summer NLC, going up versus ENCE. And ENCE had a really, really good showing yesterday in their best of 3, but this is going to be their biggest challenge today.
Yeah, I think biggest challenge all tournament. Even if they make it past Barrage, I think Barrage will be the harder team to beat regardless. So they've really got to show up today. We saw them really choke out Unique, and they've got to sort of bring that same level of gameplay, I think. And especially with this kind of draft that you're running here, I think, like highlighted on the desk, they have to be ahead of the curve, because realistically, I think you go past 20 minutes, 25 minutes, things start to get really rough at this ENCE lineup.
Okay, so how do they get ahead of the curve? What is ENCE's game plan to get ahead of Barrage and deny them the ability to get into the point where they can just take over the map and the game?
So I think it's mostly going to be through the jungle matchup in this game. You look towards Trundle into Hecarim. Trundle is normally going to be winning out on the earliest of skirmishes. So I think you probably look to play around the Syndra, try and unlock her on the map, and then you probably move down towards the Ashe Braum lane. I think you walk down there, you've got the best chance of winning skirmishes just because of Ashe and the Braum passive together. It's just so oppressive. And looking at the mini-map, there you go.
They're bringing them in. They've got the slow down, looking for the concussive blows. Rai will get locked out slowly. Now it's Wendelbow under fire, forced to flash away as Rai stacking up. He's going to get stunned. Ignite the cleanse is used. Taiki should just be able to steal this one away as Maxi trying to see if he can get some vision into the pit, but he's going to get locked down. Steph's going to have to flash away. It's been first blood picked up by Rai, but they do get return kill onto the jungle. As Kevo's just going to look to steal away a little bit more of the camps.
Yeah, I mean, Rai gets the first blood, but I think the damage is far heavier for Barrage here. You lose out on Maxi. Maxi's now going to walk all the way towards his top side. Taiki gets the blue buff. I think he's also just outright getting the full map split here. So Maxi is going to be in a lot of trouble if Taiki just walks through mid and walks to his own blue buff, because then he's just going to be effectively quartered off to his own red side jungle.
We'll have to see. It up.
Yeah, and looking at the replay there, you saw that's just the power of Braum Ashe, and then you're talking about Trundle really abusing the early game power of those picks. And I mean, we're seeing Taiki just walk straight towards the blue side, and yeah, this is going to be pretty rough for Maxi to try and come back into this one.
It really is. He actually did do a stop off at the Wolves just to see if he can get himself back for the moment, as Nilly getting heavily bullied out by Doxy here. Doxy able to take a little bit of poke in return from Nilly, but it looks like Maxi not even willing to run to the red buff right now. He gets spotted out by the Hawk shot from Kevo, so Maxi, it's going to be a rough game for him. It's going to be a very rough start to this game.
Yeah, and it's just the danger of walking towards Taiki's red buff is, okay, what if FA just decides to come and defend, and then all of a sudden you're in this really hard situation, to say the least, where you're level 2, you're level 1 maybe even. You're just going to get stunned up and you're going to die again. So Maxi, I think he's going to be okay to contest this. He has double lane priority, but Simply has the first move from mid, so...
Yeah, Simply's moving over, and with that, using that pixel brush just to try and zone him away from the crab. Smite is available, but it's going to get picked up. They've got the taunt to follow here. Simply looking for the scat of the week, but Taiki steals away the AD with the chomp and now has to flash over. There is no blast going to him to run to. Nilly just going to be on zoning control here for the moment. The Senkuk's coming in on the chase. The barrels may just be enough, and that's going to be Senkuk securing the kill. ENCE has gone horrifically wrong as Doxy flashes over the orb. They find themselves a kill onto their mid laner now.
Yeah, and it's just not quite enough priority out of the top lane, and we saw how hard Doxy was trading on Nile earlier, and it's just the result of that. And now Maxi, he didn't quite manage to get the top lane Skullcrab, but he is going to get the bottom one and teleport. Are they looking for this bot dive? I think.
Oh, they are. They've teleported the Galio in, and Seth actually runs up into Rai's face here. The Deadly Flourish not going to quite hit, but the Predator is on, and Kevo just going to get caught out. Seth sacrifices his AD carry to get out alive, and that's going to be Senkux getting his second kill of the game.
Yeah, really unfortunate. I think they tried to donate the kill over to Maxi, but one of the last ticks of the Galio Q actually took the kill. So slightly sad times for Maxi, but I think at the end of the day, getting the kill credit, they're even letting him farm up the wave. They're letting him farm the wave. So at least trying to let the Hecarim back into the game, because he is going to be the main component of this composition later on. Talking about the dives, it's going to be Hecarim going in first, or Wendelbo going in first, followed up by Senkux. So they do need to try and get him rolling. So I like the fact that they at least let him sort of tax the wave there a little bit. And you're already seeing on the minimap Barrage trying to take control of this bot side just from that roam alone. You can see just a line of vision, and you're going to see Taiki try and clear out some of it. Sefe might also walk upon some of these control wards, but you can already see the early priority from Barrage just trying to sort of keep this bottom side safe. And
yeah. And I mean, ultimately, Senkux really didn't lose out on that much. You look, he teleported into the bot lane. He's got 4 minions to catch here, so he's going to be down CS, but really, really tiny amount. And ultimately, that's great for him. You know, got a roam off, got himself 2 kills, and I mean, he's up 500 gold at the moment over his lane opponent. ENCE will take this opportunity, though, to pick up the Cloud Dragon for themselves. So once they get their ultimates, they will be on slightly shorter cooldowns, but also pushing forward that Drake timer for themselves. Next Drake up will be an Infernal, so we'll be looking at a Mountain or a Ocean Soul in this game.
yeah, I think all of the available souls at the moment would be pretty strong for both sides in all reality. And I have to say, I'm still kind of concerned for ENCE in the later stage, especially, like, you know, the start of this game's been okay, but giving over as many kills as we're going to see junglers or butt heads most likely over the wall.
Yeah, well, Taiki has found Maxi here. They've got the ultimate to come in to bring out some backline, and that's going to be Taiki smiting to heal simply over the wall. Looks for the Scatter the Weak to interrupt. Fantastically used there, as the Cannon Barrage as well would have all but sealed the fate. There we go.
Yeah.
Got that the wrong way around. But at the end of the day, simply with a good Scatter the Weak does save Taiki's life.
Simply doesn't get that down. Taiki is simply in the death chamber. No ifs, no buts, no maybes about that one. And with the dragon down, I guess you have to start looking towards the next Herald timer. Barrage have had practically consistent priority on this side of the map, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not they'll actually look to try and contest it. The Galio should be back up by the time it spawns, so, or at least it'll be maybe 30 seconds out or so, but given sort of the relative strengths of these compositions at this point in the game, I think it would kind of be wise for them to perhaps look to just drop the Herald and try and cross map somewhere else, because I think trying to skirmish into, you know, Trundle level 6, Syndra level 6, even the Ornn is pretty damn scary. It would be very risky business, to say the very least.
Well, the Invade's actually coming in. They are looking to try and contest this blue buff, as Taiki's going to start it up, but he doesn't really have the backup right now. Simply making his way over. They will spot Taiki out here as he gets caught out. Great pillar to slow Senkux down momentarily. Coming in with a taunt, and Kevo and Simply are going to come forward. A great 3-man Scatter the Weak, but Taiki loses his life as Wendelbo secures the kill. Seth slows him down, but being run down by the rest of the team. And Seth may just look to try and jump to Simply to safety. The Zenith Blade connects, and Seth does get his way out there. Now Wendelbo could be in for a bit of hurt. The Unleashed Power's enough, but they get the lockdown underneath the tower. Senkux goes low. Another Scatter the Weak by Simply does come down, but with the curtain call, Simply probably will lose his life here. He's going to have to get some fancy dancing on. Wow. All of the shots connect, and that'll be the end of his life. Just too aggressive from ENCE.
Yeah, there's action going on everywhere. Doxy's on the wrong side of the lane, by the way. I'm not sure if we've...
Almost fell into that Ash Arrow as nearly just kills him.
All right, everyone here is feeling a little bit frisky. And yeah, I mean, Taiki just disrespecting lane priority. There's nothing else to really say about it. It was just a really greedy invade.
I think he felt comfortable because Seth was able to leave the lane, that he could take that, and ultimately it just didn't work out. We actually have a look at this again, and this is where the Zenith Blade just connects, and it's just easy pickings really for Barrage at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Taiki's lucky to have not dropped like during the CC, and you just see Barrage get the chase down, full priority, full initiative. So big question mark on that invade. Seeing the picture by picture though, Taiki is going to be able to pick up the Herald, so Barrage are just going to give that one up. And that's going to now be standing gold as, yeah, we saw. Simply, I think, I'm not too sure if the Q actually hit Senkox to try and execute him there, but very unfortunate to flash forward, and Rayhei just aimed well and true with the curtain call.
But like you said, the Rift Herald was picked up for Barrage during that replay, and now in the pocket of Taiki. Actually, sorry, it was ENCE who got it. My bad. I had a complete brain fart there. ENCE have got it. And yeah, Observer's now showing me who's holding it. Thank you. Yes, I can see that now. Cheers.
There is the purple aura.
Yeah, you see that? And if he recalls, he'll be faster. True. Obviously, we'll be able to get himself a few locked plates with this Rift Herald, or if they can get priority or maybe some kills, they can look to turn that into first Tower of Blood, because at this point, they're down 2k gold. They really need to try and open up some of this gold lead for themselves. The jungle are currently even, as Taiki had a really good start, but with him just being very over-aggressive, getting caught out consistently, he's actually given a lot over to Max, who's been very proactive to pick up those 5 assists. The mid lane, there is a 500 gold deficit. The Senkox has been roaming around with Maxi a lot and simply just hasn't had the lane priority to help his jungler as effectively as Senkox has.
Yeah, and that's just the power of the Galio pick in general. It's able to nullify so many mid laners in the game when it comes to prio, and obviously having the, was it Grand Entrance? No, that's Rakan W. I always forget the Heroic Entrance. There you go.
Pretty much the same thing. Might have to hold that though, as Wonderbolt almost getting locked down, the concussive blows stacking up, but Maxi has the ultimate and that charge available, so ENCE don't want to overcommit, but the Ash Arrow just back up off cooldown. Could look to try and throw it down if they need to. Rai is stepping up and just looking to clear out the wave.
Looked like we could have had something there. I feel like we still might have something, Jake.
Simply, May got himself caught out, has got the blast cone, gets delivered onto the wrong side of the walls. Maxi's the one caught out, the solar flare is going to get used. The charge, the knock-up, everything is thrown down as Wendelbo uses the stopwatch perfectly. The taunt will come down, and Senkox gets himself a kill, but Kevo free-firing away on the backline as ENCE are starting to run away with this. A double kill's been picked up onto the Ornn already. Senkox slowed down, and he'll be shut down by Kevo as Rai takes a traffic cone to the face. He is out of there, needs to safety as ENCE will get this dragon.
Yeah, it's just a really disjointed fight from Barrage. I mean, in all fairness, Maxi does get hit over the wall in a pretty awkward position, but he ults back over, and then Senkox ults from where Maxi started. So then all of a sudden, Senkox is in an awkward position where it looks like, okay, he's probably going to die. He gets a decent-ish taunt off, but at that point, the damage is kind of already done positionally as teleport. I mean, everyone wants to fight in this series, apparently.
This is a bloodbath. It's actually what the you guys were predicting yesterday. You expected today to be a bloody day, and so far you are right. As Nilly very shoved up in this lane, and Wendelbo's coming in. They will look for the charge back. Does block out some of the stunners. The Zenith Blade actually gets missed, and Senkox is making his way forward. Slowed down momentarily, but with the Justice Punch will secure himself the kill. Nilly is shut down.
Yeah, just too far forward. Nothing else really to say about that one as replay on our screens. And we see Maxi just gets knocked over the wall, and the ult's a little bit disjointed. They didn't really know what they wanted to do with the position, and we see the front line kind of like diving, but just dying too fast. Front line, back line of Barrage not really able to get much done. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a botched fight for Barrage, and they end up giving over the second dragon, and it's going to be Mountain Soul, which is a pretty big deal for honestly both these teams, right? You got quite a bit of front line and resistances being built on both ends, so a Mountain Soul is really, really high value for both of these teams. Simply is going to be fun.
He is surrounded on all fronts. Max is making his way, and Simply does have flash. Flashes away from the charges. The Rift Herald gets summoned. Charges will come down and picks up a few plates to give ENCE a little bit of gold, but they're still down 2k, and Wonderbow has found out Taiki with the Zenith Blade. Seth's making his way over. Taiki has already used the Subjugate. It's the Solar Flare. Everything's used to lock him down as Wendelbo going very low, but no one's really willing to stick onto him as Kevo throws out the Ash Arrow, locking Senkox down, and now they've got the slows on, they've got the chase to follow, but Kevo also taking a lot of damage in return from Rai. Seth jumps in forward. They're looking for the turnaround here. The taunt comes down onto 3 members, and Rai can just free fire. The health bars are so low, but Rai just flashes forward and gets the kill, but Simply unleashes the power, looks for the kill, not going to quite find it as Rai closing in with that 4th shot. No flash available to him. Can hop over the wall if he needs to, and Taiki should just be able to get out alive. That was a lot of low health bars.
Yeah, that was a lot of low health bars, and I've got some question marks for Barrage. They're looking really disjointed in some of these early team fights. And I think in general, just not really respecting the power that this ENCE composition has in the earlier skirmishes, because realistically, Barrage, they want a few items for Reihe and Maxi before they can start to really just dominate a lot of these greater team fights. As, I mean, it starts off with Taiki kind of just finding Wendelbow on the Skull Crab, and it's just, there's just not a lot of respect. There's not really any coordination here from Barrage. And one by one, ENCE just pick off health bars, and we see Reihe flash forward there for the kill. And thankfully, there's not enough CDs available to the ENCE boys to take him down and punish him for the flash.
Yeah. Rai 4-0 as well. Worth a lot of gold. Got that Storm Razor finished up. They do spot out the blue buffs there. They also do spot out Rai.
I guess that's the silver lining, though. Rai has picked up a lot of the kills, but you, in this kind of composition, Rai is always going to kind of be firing off in the backline with the curtain call. So you kind of want Maxi picking up these kill credits, if anyone. Him or Doxy, but Doxy's not really been around. He's only really been present in the form of the ultimate, so yeah, at least Maxi now, 15 minutes in, does have the Triforce, so he's going to be feeling at least very powerful the immediate future. And now I'm a little more confident in Barrage to start taking some of these fights with the Triforce in. Senkox at least has his one item. We've got Reihe, who's building towards what I'd imagine is going to be either a PD or a rapid fire cannon. And that's how
I've seen the rapid fire. Pretty much what we've seen most of the time. Is ENCE will get themselves their second Rift Herald here. Question is how are they going to use it? Are they going to find first turret blood? Are they going to get this opportunity? But 4 members roaming towards the bottom side of the map. No teleports available for ENCE. They may just have to give this one up. Senkox even cutting simply off as Solar Flare, Fear, Cannon Barrage. This is everything in the kitchen sink thrown to the AD carry. And 2 easy kills picked up for Barrage. Like I said, no teleport, so this will be first turret blood for them as well.
Yeah, so that's what Barrage's composition looks like when it's executed properly. It is very oppressive. Kevo also, it looks like he has flash. I think it's literally seconds from coming up. If he doesn't have flash or cleanse, he's going to die every single time that Maxi decides to press his Archie on him. So have to definitely keep our eyes on some of the timings of Kevo, because if he doesn't have him, he's dead meat. Like, you can't survive a Hecarim Galio dive with curtain call and everything else on top of it. It's just pretty much impossible for any immobile AD carry, as I think Taiki's going to drop the Herald here and just getting priority for the Dragon Soul bit.
Yeah, Dragon Soul is a real condition for ENCE to work with. As Wave's going to crash in, the charge is going to go down, as simply gets a good scan of the weak off onto Wendelbow to make sure not under any threat, but Taiki's waiting in the wings. Has got that flank available. Pillar's going to connect, and the Call of the Force God's thrown down. This is the skirmishing power of ENCE. Shutdown picked up for the support, though. Kevo loses his life on the other side of the map, so AD carry for support. I think Barrage will take that one pretty happily.
Yeah, I think they do. But it doesn't seem like either team wants to really start the Dragon just yet. I think ENCE, more or less, the bigger benefit is of that, having Kevo be down. But one thing to track now is he doesn't have flash, so if he returns to the Dragon here and something hasn't started up, Maxi will have his ultimate available. There won't be any follow-up from Senkox, but you still have the Solar Flare and probably the Cannon Barrage too, so Kevo's going to be in a whole world of hurt. Simply Splash looks like it's about 30 seconds out too, so Kevo, simply, they have to really position well, otherwise they're just going to get dove on and most likely just outright die.
Kevo does have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow as well, so there is a slight opportunity. Doxy going to flash away from all of the CC layered at him. Watch that arrow, hits Doxy, use the Arranger already, but Senkox is coming on the flank. They've got the taunt, they've got the CC. This is the wombo combo, but Barrage can just throw down. Nearly trying to tank up for the team. As Taiki will take that 4th shot. Simply has been caught out, but dodging out on the Deadly Flourish. The Zenith Blade connects, and Taiki flashes in front. Simply will lose his life as a 3-man taunt connects, and the bouncing grenades are there. The user scatter the weak onto a couple of members, but Barrage's health bars are just so much better as the Cannon Barrage fires down. Deadly Flourish will not hit the right mark, but Barrage have afforded himself the opportunity to take this Dragon and forced ENCE away.
Very, very big deal for Barrage to pick up this Dragon. Denying the soul or the early soul point it feels really good, especially with a composition like this where resist can really make your champions feel like they're not doing a whole bunch, right? You know, Jin's not the biggest tank killer in the world. GP's fine with some resistances because of the innate armor pen and what have you, but yeah, we have the replay on our screen here, and Kevo, he just gets dived on. There's nothing he can do. He doesn't have summoner spells. It's kind of as simple as that. It's how the composition works. Simply finds himself in no man's land with when the bow in his face, and eventually the Barrage boys do get down on him. And the taunt comes through, seals his fate, and unfortunately for Barrage, they don't quite pick up this kill on Nile, but still means they pick up the Dragon nonetheless. And ENCE, they do respond eventually with this mid lane tower. I think that's a very nice to have, sort of try and open up this map a little bit for themselves.
Yeah, it's definitely a win for them. They got a pretty low health top lane turret, but with Senkok and Maxi nearby, Simply is not feeling it. Turret will fall in the bottom side as well, as Nili's able to take that one down. Kevo's just been having a rough game so far, 1-4 on the Ashe. You can see the gold difference between him and Kevo, really substantial.
It's not even really his fault, to be honest. You can't. Oh my god. Yeah, Reihei's on spike. Reihei's really on spike. And
is it Reihei or is it Rai? I've always called it Rai.
I think everyone kind of just, it's mix and match, you know, it's like Soften or SOFM. Everyone kind of does everything, because I think Senkok is probably there.
Yeah, he might be in trouble here. The Ashe is coming in from downtown. Not going to quite hit him, but he gets caught out by the call of the Forge God, and Simply will get himself his third kill of the game. Nice and easy. Kevo should just be able to hold this tower versus the Jhin. Not really under any threat there. I'd say that trap, but he's not taking it out for some reason.
That's fine.
Okay.
No, it's all good. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit disrespectful from Semcox on the top side, I guess. Thinking that he has mid lane priority, his team will be able to roam over faster than ENCE's, but it's ENCE that have the inside track just because of the geography of the map. So not respecting the immediate collapse and pays for it with his life.
Little win there for ENCE, but as we do hit the 20-minute marks, it's still a 22,000, not 20, it's a 2,000 gold lead over to Barrage. They have only picked up one dragon, so a soul for them is a pretty far away thing for them, looking at 35 minutes. Actually, it'd be less than that. It'd be about 33 minutes, 32 minutes, roughly, is when they would be looking at a soul if they can chain every dragon back to back. Over on the side of ENCE, though, they are potentially 7 minutes off soul, which, like you said, would be really nice for them because of the fact that Jhin, not really a tank killer, not for at the moment anyway, has got the rapid fire cannon and the Storm Razor finished up. Tao will drop and expand the gold lead a little bit more. Kevo only sitting on one item. That's the key thing here. He's down 2 levels to right and only got one item.
Yeah, and it's hard to think about Kevo being in this kind of position, granted how the game started out with the blue buff invade. But I suppose you could kind of link it back as well. Sefe died on that invade, so he had to sort of play out the first wave and a half. Yeah, Rai got first blood as well too. So like it's a really tough position to be in a mobile AD carry like Ashe into Hecarim, Galio, Fiona. But hopefully he does eventually pick up some items for himself and try and lay down some damage, as I think looking towards this dragon, for ENCE, they kind of need the mid lane priority, and they just need priority on the map to be the first ones in the river. They want Barrage to come into them. It's what Barrage's comp is designed to do, but they want it to always kind of be on their terms. They want to see when Barrage are going to try and make that play. Yeah. If Barrage are the ones first into the river, and they have the choice of turning, then ENCE are in trouble. ENCE are almost at any neutral objective. If the setup it goes like that, they're going to be in trouble.
We do see Nili just kick over to level 14, so can upgrade the Might of the Ruined King for Kevo if he wants to. He's upgraded both of his items already. Is now just trying to stack as much resistances for the oncoming fight. Simply got the Needless, got the Haunting Geist, so kind of on components before he moves on to his second item. Curious to see if we see the Spellbinder come out, or if we see the Death Cap. Minions. That wasn't just my screen that happened on, right?
No, I think it was just your screen, unless.
Okay.
What did you see, Jake? Tell us.
The minions were kind of realm warping forward a little bit. Oh. Maybe I'm lagging. No, maybe the observer's nodding his head. They were.
No, he's not. Okay, all right. So maybe I'm the one that missed it, guys. Yeah. As both teams, I mean, ENCE have committed 5 here to the mid lane. Senkok is roaming up, but he does have his ultimate available.
Yeah, they just got the Might of the Ruined King finished up. Yeah. Look for Senkok. He's got the heroic entrance. The front line are playing on that front, trying to be a nuisance. The Predator's been used as the Cannon Barrage is coming down. Maxi wants to find that chance opportunity as he's got it on to Kevo. Kevo instantly cleanses, putting the damage into Maxi, able to find it. Here comes the taunt. Kevo flashes the wall to keep himself alive for the moment, but Rai can run him down. Wendelbo's coming for Kevo, and Kevo's trying to kill him in time, unable to do so, but Senkox will be locked down and taken out. Steph is blocking on the front line, and everybody is just pile driving forward, unable to get it. Simply's getting unleashed onto by Doxy. Doxy tangerines to keep himself alive. Here comes Rai. Rai gets a triple kill. Nilly's on that front, trying to run interrupt, but is unable to do so as Doxy takes out Taiki, locking down with a deadly flourish onto Nilly, and Nilly 1 versus 3 has to pull a bloody miracle off here. His health bar is just evaporating so quickly as he's going in for Rai. Rai doesn't quite get it. Doxy gets the ace, and Barrage wipe ENCE off the map.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the start of that fight looks pretty promising for ENCE, I've got to say. Maxi dropped really damn fast, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter because it's Rai that stays alive in the team fight. And we're going to see, I honestly thought that Barrage had such a good setup for this fight. You see, Senkox is in such a great position for a flank, but it gets spotted out. And that's the important thing. Maxi goes forward and Senkox isn't there to follow up with him immediately. So Maxi is the one that pays for it with his life. Kevo managed to get over the wall into the pit, but I mean, Rai's there. He's jumped over into Rai's waiting hands, and Rai's never really threatened in this fight. So he just practically gets the auto. And it's Doxy that eventually finds some backline threat too. You see Rai takes the opportunity, flashes forward for Simply. And honestly, I have to say it was kind of a botched start for Barrage for that fight, with Maxi dying and not really having any follow-up afforded to him. But the rest of the team pulls through, and that's the important thing. They pick up the second Mountain Dragon, so there is going to be no Mountain Soul point for ENCE. And honestly, from this moment on, things just get harder and harder for ENCE in a composition like this, because Barrage, they scale, and I mean, you look at Simply, you look at Kevo, whenever they don't have flash, they're just targets as, oh, that's a nice Ash Arrow, no cleanse.
They are going in, they've got the Forge God, down he goes, and the shutdown is gifted to Kevo, 1,000 gold in the pocket. Whew. And they are just bolting to Baron.
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to talk about how ENCE could get back into the game. That is exactly it. Long range engagement with the Ash Arrow, you try and find key targets, and they're starting off Baron. Doxy, he has TP, he has Cannon Barrage. Let's see how Barrage decides to. Yeah.
It's
going kind of risky. This is kind of risky.
Oh, Maxi is able to get away. Simply unleashes the power, and they actually just turn back to Baron. Maxi chunked out pretty heavily here. Cannon Barrage has been fired out just to a little bit of damage and chip away, but this isn't really threatening enough. Doxy, though, is threatening on the other side of the map, taking that Herald, well, the bot lane tower. This will be Baron over to the side of ENCE, so with that shutdown, they did just afford themselves a little bit of space, but Doxy opens up an inhibitor on the bottom side of the map, and this will always be a point that ENCE now have to worry about, the backdoor potential.
Yeah, the backdoor potential. I think it's actually a nice level of restraint there from Barrage to not panic and try and just find a random engage and try and like 50-50 the game away, because if they give over kills, the shutdowns as well, on top of the Baron buff without trading towers, then I think things get really rough. So I like the fact that Maxi actually decided to just walk towards the mid lane, take the mid tier 1, and Doxy just decided to commit to the bottom lane inhib tower and open up the base.
Yeah.
As gold flash on our screens, you can still see Rai is by far and away
200 gold, 2,300 gold, sorry, over Kevo. After Kevo just got 1,000 gold shutdown and a Baron. It's just astronomical, the difference between Rai and Kevo right now. He's still worth 350 gold in bounty. So what's that? That's like 500 gold on another shutdown on Rai if they can find it.
That is
and you can farm Rai, hopefully, but he's got his cleanse coming back fairly soon, so it's going to be hard to do that. They will take this mid lane tier 2, though, as their prize. And now ENCE are actually trying to bully their way forward for a mid lane tier 3. See if they're going to be able to do so, but it's a little bit hard. Although the wave clear is relatively low on Barrage.
Yeah, they have okay wave clear with the Galio and with the GP, and even the Jhin has a little bit to offer. But Baron buff, it's hard to kill these minions, and we'll have to see how ENCE decide to play out this tower, because that's a nice scatter the week.
Yeah, they do get the Solar Flare onto Simply. Predator's been used by Senkox. Look at Kevo, he's playing so far back. He hasn't got that flash yet, does have cleanse. They really want that cleanse on Kevo to keep him safe. Gets chunked out heavily by the barrel from Doxy there. Baron buff still on to the ENCE members. They are just nestling, just fighting to to get their hands onto this mid lane inhibitors. The curtain call has been fired out. Nilly's just going to try and tank it, but another barrel into the mechanic barrage. Right gets the snipe. Simply's all alone. Unleashes power, looks for the scout of the week, but can't find it in time, and Taiki will lose his life. Steph will try and run down Maxi, but Maxi able to dodge away from everything here. And Barrage are just TPing into the base. They're looking to close the game out. Senkux and Doxy have a massive wave bot lane. ENCE got too overeager on the mid lane, and that will cost them game number 1. There is no way anybody's going to be spawning up in time. Nilly has the Call of the Forge God. He's going to try and use it to clear out the wave and maybe force one of these two members down. Senkux actually does get chunked out pretty heavily, and he does have the Baron minions to maybe defend the tower. So I called it, but it might not be over yet. Kevo's up in 2 seconds time. Nilly is going to have to try and hold as long as possible. Kevo's trying to find Doxy. Will not be able to find him yet as the Ash Arrow is available, but the turret is going low. Wonderbow just flashes into Kevo's face. Kevo kiting on that backline, trying to find the kills. The turret actually will just about survive. The rest of the team are making their way forward. Rai's been locked down. Rai's been slowed down. A couple of more shots from the concussive flow as they just use Wendell the sacrificial lamb. Rai's out of there, baby.
Yeah, hero play from Wendell. You love to see that from your support players. And I was really going to say, if that siege didn't turn into such a fiesta and almost a game end, is that I'm surprised that ENCE feel like they have to siege on this mid tower as a 5-man unit. But that being said, if they played the entire map and they play sort of, you know, 3 lanes or even 2 lanes, they probably feel that threat of just an immediate engage from the Barrage roster as, I mean, just bending the bullet, right? As soon as Kevo drops, that's just Maxi's signal to go, go, go. Runs over Simply quite easily, and Taiki, he's just left in no man's land, and Barrage, they just make the call. They think they can end the game. And it's pretty much Nilly's just heroics with the ultimate to clear out the wave, which is just about enough to keep them alive. As I believe it was actually ENCE that picked up the next dragon. So it's not going to be Barrage there on Soul Point. Actually going to end up being ENCE, as eventually is the ENCE roster that end up spawning back out. Barrage don't have it in them quite there to drop both the Nexus towers.
I thought that was it. I really thought that was it, but it wasn't. They managed to hold on. 1 minute 30 until the Baron comes up. And you can see that Death's Dance almost finished for Kevo. Actually, as I say, it finishes the Death's Dance.
Our observer really loves Wendell, and I don't blame him. That was a great sacrifice.
He was a true hero. He was a true hero for that one. Death Crown now finished up onto Simply level 16, so maxed out the Unleashed Power as well. So can get a little bit more from that thanks to the Syndra passive. And I do still worry. They've got a lot of open structures in their base, and Seth maybe find himself a little caught out. Actually,
who's caught who?
He's being CC'd for days here. The Call of the Forge God's going to get fired, and Kevo's got to deal with Doxy. Has the Tangerine on. They're just CCing Doxy as much as possible, as Kevo's able to kite away on that sideline, just firing the AoE out. The taunt will lock him down, and they're trying to kill Kevo. Kevo's just fleeing. He's feared. He's locked down, and Maxi will secure the kill. ENCE's health bars are just so low. They have got the members. They have still got Simply looking for those Dark Spheres, but he's missing them crucially. He's missing everything. Finally gets himself the shutdown. But the amount of time Doxy bought there was massive, as Maxi finds himself a rampage kill, and ENCE with the low health bars will feel victim. Double kill picked up. Make it a triple kill as Nilly cheering and was running away to safety. Barrage should just have done it this time. Nilly does have the wave clear a little bit available to him, but he's just going to get bot back into the enemy team. The taunts, the CC is just way too much for him to handle, and Nilly will lose his life. Death of 1,000 cuts for Nilly. Ace comes down, 32 minutes on the clock, and Barrage take game number 1.
They take game number 1, and I have to say it was a messy game, I think, from both sides. But with an ENCE draft like that, I think that's the kind of game that you have to aim for. You know, if you don't make things messy in a game like that, with a composition where, you know, you're not necessarily outscaling, you have to make a game sort of play out as such. But I think Barrage, credit to them, they do manage to, you know, eventually take down the win. But I do have some question marks about some of the synergy that was not necessarily present in all of those team fights. We saw multiple times where Senkux wasn't quite in tune with Maxi. So we'll have to see if they clean things up for game 2.
Honestly, it just looked like a, you know, bar from a few things from Barrage, it looked very clean from them. They played around that early invade at level 1 with a Braum really well. To find first blood in a Braum invade when you're the one getting invaded that was really, really good stuff from them. And then, you know, ENCE though, there was some fire. There was really some fire, and I think we're in for a real series here. Fantastic stuff either way. But with that, Barrage take game number 1. Now, guys, we're going to throw to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll have our analysts break that game down a little bit more. See you in a sec.
Must be dreaming, think I saw a ghost. Or was it an angel of the past that we all know? Ain't got the answers, but I hold the hope. So I'm holding on to the love, embracing the unknown. Now I'm dancing to the music. I'll just keep dancing till I lose it. Yeah, I got that Friday feeling. Yeah, it's all that I've been needing. Feel it, feel it. You're feeling good, feel it. You're feeling good, feel it. You're feeling good, so good, feel it. You're feeling good, feel it. You're feeling good, feel it. You're feeling good, so good. If I'm dreaming, I don't wanna know. 'Cause this is all I need, a perfect story told. I ain't got the answers, I still hold the hope. So I'm holding on to the love, embracing the unknown. Now I'm dancing to the music. I'll just keep dancing till I lose it. Yeah, I got that Friday feeling. Yeah, it's all that I've been needing. Feel it, feel it. You're feeling good, feel it. You're feeling good, feel it. You're feeling good, so good, feel it. You're feeling good,
Well, that was definitely a game. That was a bit messy. It was, I think, Barrage kind of doing little micro throws over and over again. The analogy that I used to describe it to the guys off camera was like, okay, you've got two team comps. One of them's a musket and one of them's a machine gun. It doesn't matter how many shots you miss with the machine gun, eventually one's going to hit. Whereas if you're ENCE, you've got one shot, and if you miss it, then that's it. You know, and I think you saw that in some of those team fights. I think the last team fight that we saw especially was kind of like a pure encapsulation of that Barrage comp. Doesn't matter how many times you mess it up and it goes wrong, you just have the pure brute force to get through and actually win those team fights. And I think that's kind of like, that summed up the game for me here.
I like what they did early game, because we also talked about that, okay, Barrage, they have a team composition that does really well in team fighting. They have some good backline damage. They have everything they need for skirmishing. And we talked about ENCE as the roster that they needed to be ahead of the curve, and they realized this themselves with an early invade with the Braum. Things didn't go completely as planned, but you did get a split map that put Max behind a bit. And when we came to that point, it was just like, yeah, okay, but how do we keep him behind? It was kind of, they struggled what to do there. They were like, oh, wait, great job, everyone. We did it. He's a level down for 1 minute. And then after that, it was just like, oh, I guess he's just back now. And I think Sencux played a pivotal part of that, because in the early game, he was just out on the map from the get-go. I think he had, he played a huge point in the success of actually getting back from the little setback they had in the early game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously, as time went on, the comp scaled up, and I think there was a pure lack of damage coming out from ENCE, and they just couldn't cope with those Barrage full-on 5v5 team fights. Orcs, you've actually selected a play that you're going to break down for us, so let's bring that in and take us through a magical journey of dissecting this play.
Yeah, so this is one of the later team fights of the game, and what I want to kind of highlight here is the burden of execution. So in this situation, we can quite distinctly see that Taiki is a little bit out of position here, not with his backline. I just need to find, where's the rubber tool, by the way? Give me one. There we go. Cool. So he's a little bit out of position. And I think the critical thing here is watching Kevo. Kevo is who I want to highlight with this play. And as it starts to shape out, Taiki is really not in a comfortable spot to help peel with him. And here the TP comes in from Simply. And I think there's definitely a decision here. There's a decision what you want to do. And I think as the play pans out, you can see that his decision here is to actually move up here and look for a solo kill onto Rai. And I just think this is the wrong decision, because if we actually scale things back a little bit and look at Kevo, I want to go through this and just highlight how much he does and how much effort he puts in to try and make this play work, and it still ends up failing. So you'll watch, he dodges away from the solar flare, he finds a duel against Doxy that with the knockup from the Braum he wins, he gets out of the Galio ult, and at this point, Kevo's full HP. He's just kited away, he's done a ton of damage to Doxy, Wendelbo's chunked out, and he just needs a little bit more, and he can start continuing to win out this team fight, because Kevo is really such a pivotal part of ENCE. The problem is, despite all of this, and despite this being a really good position for a team fight, because we actually have this little bit of terrain here helping to block access, despite all this being in favor, Barrage just continue to brute force through this angle, and we'll actually see as this carries out, the Galio gets a taunt, and then it's the Hecarim who's a final nail in the coffin for Kevo. And if we actually bring it back a little bit, we'll see that the decision from Simply instead is to move up here and look for an assassination onto Rai up there. And if he had instead made the decision to move down in this direction and assist his AD carry, he could have potentially been the peel to keep him alive. And I think you see from the rest of this play playing out that as soon as the AD carry for ENCE dies, the fight is just over. Like, this isn't necessarily a bad spot. Simply manages to kill Doxy off. But for the most part, it doesn't matter, because the Hecarim is too strong and he's just able to run over the rest of the fight. I think ENCE need to reassess what their goal is in the team fights, and their goal here should have been to peel, because frankly, Rai dying was irrelevant and they needed to keep Kevo alive. So I think Barrage had a much easier time. They had so many tools to throw at Kevo to make his life difficult. But on top of that, I think ENCE need to focus on peeling for their backline and not trying to isolate enemy carries.
I mean, I'm just gonna put in my resignation and quit the job, because there's really no point of me being here after that.
Yeah,
I mean,
all right.
why are we even here? That was just perfect.
Run the whole desk yourself, mate.
Yeah,
Run the whole
actually,
desk
Orcs,
yourself.
you got
Good.
this. You got this, bro. Like, I don't fuck.
Okay, well, next game, I think the critical things for me are the Galio pick was massive. We saw Sencux run away with that one. Huge agency onto that pick. I think we also need to see a different way they play the team fights and more tools to keep Kevo alive. Kevo had some brilliant team fights. It just wasn't enough. And with that, we're going to break, so we'll see you soon for game 2.
Your eyes, they look me over, so close. We're falling further, only time will tell. Who's gonna wear it? Who's gonna wear it? Who's gonna change up? Now it's over. Big dreams, big hearts will roll together. So wide awake now. It seems our hearts were always beating a different rhythm all along. You don't really wanna. I feel like running from the games you seem to play. Who's gonna wear it? Who's gonna wear it? Who's gonna change up? Now it's over. Big dreams, big hearts will roll together. So wide awake now. It seems our hearts were always beating a different rhythm all along. Who's gonna wear it? Who's gonna wear it? Who's gonna change up? Now it's over. Big dreams, big hearts will roll together. So wide awake now. It seems our hearts were always beating. Big dreams, big hearts will roll together. So wide awake now. It seems our hearts were always beating.
Let the sparks fly into a summer night. We're going eye to eye, running to the future blind. Running to the future blind.
After some negotiations with our union, we have decided to return to the casting desk. Me and Gulbug, unfortunately, did feel a little bit outclassed, but it's okay. We're back in the game. We're ready to go to game 2. Orcs, look, take it away, mate. Clearly, you're the best person on the desk here, so I'm going to hand it over.
You guys have a union?
Oh no! I made it up. I don't have a union. Let's be real. Okay, so let's get into band phase. It is Lilia and Graves, those jungle bands being focused again once more in a two teams that really are dominated in that jungle position.
Yeah, I don't expect to drastically see a change in bands coming out here, but I think the picks for ENCE particularly need to change. Too much weight on the shoulders of Kevo, in all honesty. And actually, I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see them go for the red side in this position, simply because that would have allowed Nilly to also play a carry in a good matchup. And then by that, it's not as much weight on the Ash's shoulders in that situation. I don't think the problem was Kevo, because Kevo was playing this really well. The problem was when you have so many tools to deal with him, there's a limit to how much peel you can offer. And I think it was also, as was pointed out in that replay, a bit of a misplay in some of the fights by ENCE, but even so, the burden of execution was on ENCE. Barrage just had an easier time, so draft really needs to change if ENCE want to have some good chances here. But again, I don't think the Ashe was a problem. It was kind of everything around it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It wouldn't surprise me if we just see the same rotation out of Barrage, though. I don't see what's stopping them here. You still have the Hecarim, you can still second pick Liliana, which brings some great engage onto a champion like Ashe, which is really immobile. And as Orcs has pointed out, you have tools and can draft tools that would actually help you peel towards it. But it's actually so insanely hard to actually make it work, and we've seen teams even at higher levels struggle to do it.
So the question is, do Barrage just repeat their red side draft here? Do they just go Leona, Hecarim on open rotation? Because it seems like with the Ashe, that's worked for you well previously. I would be surprised if that wasn't what they opted for, just given that, Hecarim's good in that situation. The Ornn actually going to be locked in, though, for Doxy here. And now that opens up that jungle option for Taiki if he wants it.
Yeah, I think this makes it interesting, because I feel like this sets you up for a really easy Braum pickup in this situation, because you're into Leona, it's a good matchup, but also blocks the Ornn. But on top of that, it kind of limits the options for Barrage, because you're now being denied the Hecarim. And on top of that, if you wanted to go Galio mid again, you're in a really rough time, because with Ornn top, Galio mid, you're putting, again, so much weight on your AD carry, which is what we saw from ENCE. And now they have a delivery system with Hecarim Shen. I feel like Rai could be in a really rough spot if he ends up being the singular carry for the team, whereas ENCE, they've got a better jungler, already one of the S tier champions. They've got more protection in terms of the top laner for that AD carry with the Shen. I like this draft already coming out from ENCE.
I am very surprised to see this kind of draft coming out from Barrage here. And in all honesty, are we sure the icons are not swapped or anything like that? Is this the right players we're looking at? Because it's so confusing to see, for me to see that you just choose to give it up here. Orcs pointed out, even if you don't go Shin here, if you decide to third pick Braum instead, there's so much value. You get the peeling, you kind of nullify the Ornn itself, and now you've just got an insanely strong team fighting composition already. You got great backline damage with the delivery system, with the Hecarim, with the Shen, but you also got great peel for the 2v2 in bot lane. We saw how much a global map presence actually played its part in the first game with Senkux moving around the map. Well, now you have a Shen on the side of Nilla who does really well into the Ornn, into just lane matchup as well. And it's just way better for ENCE already. The first 3 picks, I love it, but I don't see why Barrage let this happen.
And actually, something that we said previously was, okay, like Barrage clearly had the Draft Kingdom win on that last series, like that last game even. And it was such a close series, even regardless. It's such a close game, rather, even regardless of that. What happens if we go into a game where the draft is not automatically won for Barrage? Do we think there is actually a real shot here for ENCE? The Orianna and the Syndra gets banned, and the Sylas gets picked up. Now, I know that Sylas probably has some good ultimates to pick up here as well. But it's a bit of a wild change in pace for the Barrage draft.
Yeah, and I feel like as well, with regards to Sylas, why is it such a high priority in the Ornn? I actually feel like playing Sylas into Ornn puts you in a really good spot, because you have honestly an amazing ultimate to steal away. Braum is an obvious pick here. I'm honestly surprised he didn't get banned out in this situation.
Yeah.
But I think already ENCE have just a far better composition, and Barrage, I mean, there's that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it feels like they're trying to fix something that wasn't broken.
They didn't even try to fix it. They just completely they smashed it. They threw it out the window and was like, this works so well. I don't want it anymore. And then just threw it straight into the trash. That's what happened. Even the Silas pick, as Orc said yourself here, it's great into on. And Braum wasn't banned. I even said this, and Orc said it, like, why is this not banned? The Akali comes through, which is like an old school matchup between Akali and Silas, which back then was a bit more Silas favorite due to the magic shield, but just now really isn't. And it's just that blind pick coming through as well. It's so interesting to me because the comp of ENCE right now, you have great backline damage with the Akali, with Hecarim. You got good peel with the Shen and Braum. And right now I take a look at Barrage and they just look like a tier 2 composition right now.
Yeah, and I think for me, you kind of need something like the Aphelios to be outputting tons of damage because your composition is lacking damage. But the problem is you're now in a situation where the enemy team has Akali, it's got Hecarim, it's got Shen. There is so much dive potential in this composition. There's a lot of scenarios I can see where Aphelios doesn't get his chance to free hit, doesn't get his chance to get that damage off, as we saw from Kevo on the Ashe last game. And I'd say he even has less peel than Kevo had in game 1. So Barrage, the burden of execution is now on them. They need to have an absolute blinder here. And I feel like if Sencooks are right, either of them fall behind or get blown up in a team fight, ENCE should just have the team fight in the bag.
I'm just confused. Like you said, it couldn't have been Senna, because if Senna was coming in, there was just almost no damage for Barrage in a team fight, right? So the Aphelios coming in makes sense in that respect. But how, as an Aphelios, do you dodge Akali, Hecarim, Shen, even in an Ashe Arrow on top of that? Like, that is almost the same challenge that Kevo was facing in the previous thing. And as you said, Orcs, he had more tools to prevent that from being the case. I'm maybe Barrage purely as saying we're one game up, cool, let's limit test, let's see what we can do. But it definitely feels like a wild change in pace in the draft that didn't need to happen. Not a change in pace though. Going to hand it over to our casters, Jamada and Hitbrain, ready to take the game away.
Thank you very much. As we're getting ready to go into game number 2, it does look like ENCE have come out on top with their draft here. I'm really loving what they put together. A massive improvement from game 1. I'm assuming, Jamada, you're probably in the same camp as the rest of us on that one.
Yeah, I've definitely got some question marks for what Barrage ended up with. I think ENCE definitely made some decent adaptations. I agree with Excoundrel particularly. How does Aphelios survive Hecarim Akali dives? It just seems really, really difficult, and really rounded up quite well. The burden of execution is now on Barrage's shoulders. So we're here, but I am definitely kind of concerned for the direction that Barrage took with their draft.
Okay, so let's talk execution. What is it Barrage are looking to do here? Obviously keep Rai alive, that's the obvious, but how do they get to the point where they're going to feel comfortable fighting versus ENCE, or is it a matter of not fighting ENCE and just trying to play in the side lanes? What's really the game plan for Barrage here?
It's hard because you can't, for example, you just brought up the side lanes. It's very difficult to play side lanes into double TP solo laners and a Shen when you yourself don't really have great split pushers. So realistically, that then kind of limits your options to playing in more wells than not 2 lanes, or just outright looking for team fights around neutral objectives. And even then, I'm still favoring ENCE's composition. I feel like they've got way more in the tank, as we are seeing ENCE force Barrage out of the river.
Yeah, sure actually, if he takes this Winter's Bite, he would die, so he had to flash that. Rai gets a little bit of poke off onto Taiki, but Taiki's going to be okay to heal back up. He's got the Hunter's Talisman, and once he gets his W, he's going to be really effective. Now, looks like Barrage are thinking about going for a invade on the blue side, but Nilly is there to spot them out and force them away, so not having any shenanigans there as far as that's going.
Yeah, I kind of like the adaptation there from Barrage. They wanted to try and retaliate from a potential late invade by just, being on time as well on the enemy blue buff, but it wasn't quite enough. We are going to just see this happen, especially because when the Bo had to blow his flash, it's just full prio for Kevo and Stefe. Ashe Braum at its peak. It's far too strong at level 1.
They're not even farming. They're okay just zoning them off the experience. Because once you got that level 2, it gets even harder to deal with it.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. But I mean, talking about avenues for Barrage, it's hard to even really think about. You maybe look towards like Sencooks first item / second, and then you use the power of the Trundle and the Silas in tandem to allow Aphelios to eventually be a champion. But again, you're talking about Aphelios into having to deal with a Kali when there's only really one point and click CC. And then you also have the Hecarim and the Shen delivery system. There's just so much to worry about. So I'm really concerned. I think in the early game, Maxi definitely has to try and make something happen, but it's most likely going to have to be from the mid lane because ganking top side is going to be hard. Ganking the bottom lane is going to be incredibly difficult when it's just full perma prio for ENCE all of the time. So I think it's going to be a very long road for Barrage into this game.
Yeah, it really is. And rotation actually came down as the crab spawn, so it looks like this is going to be a double crab for ENCE, and Maxi not really in position to be able to contest this. Taiki has got that smite. Senkux has made his way over and spotted out on the ward. Taiki will be able to pick this up. Senkux going for a nice trade here actually versus him, but I don't think you win this one there, Senkux. Has got Doxy cut about, but the red buff's burning, and Taiki is going to ghost away to safety, so mid lane has been forced out, but Seth's roamed over, has himself the Winter's Bite, and Doxy now, you are going to get taken down. The taunt, the CC, everything just layered in beautifully. The Ignite will follow and simply will find the first blood. It's actually nearly to secure it as the teleport by Senkux comes in, and everybody's already gone.
Yeah, and that's just beautiful use of priority from Kevo and Sefe right there. You saw on the minimap whilst these shenanigans were going on, Kevo and Sefe were actually picking up the bottom lane Skull Crab. So Braum was already halfway there. You can sort of call it in a way a hovering rotation where he's using the time he has because of the crashed wave to sort of just sit in fog. And then if he's needed elsewhere on the map, he's halfway there already. And honestly, I've got question marks for Senkux. I think you just let Taiki take the Skull Crab. And you saw Taiki almost just outright 1v1'd him whilst being a level down. Just the power of the Hecarim in the river with Conqueror. As Sefe tried to stop Ray from picking up the cannon. I think he did.
I totally missed. Honestly,
I missed it. Yeah.
One of the things Ulcer's learned about me, and one of the things you'll learn about me is occasionally I zone out a little bit. And I'm looking at other things. I totally missed that. He might have. Well, let us know. Not that I have Twitch chat open or Twitter at the moment, but let us know. And somehow,
let us know.
I will find out. But if we do take stock of where we are, we're at 5 minutes into the game. 800 gold lead over to ENCE at the moment. You can see the gold and where the lead is currently in the top lane, as Nilly did find himself that first blood. The bot lane actually equal as well, which is pretty good for Rai considering the start they had, but that was partly because Seth did roam over to help his team for that skirmish up on the topside river. So Kevo did have to give up some of the prio he had earned himself in the lane. But as we toggle back to the items, we can see where we are at the moment. Hextech Gunblade onto Simply. Kevo hasn't been to base yet. Neither has Nilly, but expect to see a Tiamat come through pretty quick onto the Shen. Our observer's like a dog. When you throw a tennis ball, any global skill shot, you throw something, it'll follow it. It's like, but even if it's like a fake ball, you know, when you get a doggy, I've got a ball and you throw it and the dog takes it.
I do that all the time with my dog, actually. Just pretend to throw a ball as all. Hello.
They are looking for something down here. Seth's pretty low, but he's still feeling pretty confident. Got Taiki with him. Got Kevo. Got the no heal, actually, but still feel confident. They're just going to zone him off for the moment.
Yeah, I think if the bottom lane of Barrage had slightly higher health bars, they would have felt a little more confident taking that skirmish, but Ray was working with 200 HP, give or take, so don't really want to take that risk when you've got Kevo and Sefe both with flash. As, oh, hello.
I mean, Kevo's just feeling it. 1v2, going to force them out of lane, spot where they both are as well. Bad Ray's going to get done by Taiki. Does have the W to keep himself healed up. It was a little rough, but he's okay. He had smite as well. So that's going to be the first dragon picked up for ENCE, and it's going to be a cloud dragon. So we're once again looking at a mountain or ocean soul. Crucially, that cloud drake's actually quite nice just to reduce the cooldown on the Shenar, the Ashar, you know, all these tools that they're going to be wanting to play around.
That's a really high value cloud dragon.
It's actually like, really high.
All of these champions on ENCE want to cast their almost practically off cooldown. Like whenever they get the opportunity to, they want to press their Arceus. So very high value.
I'm very much in the camp that Cloud Drake isn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It's not the best soul, but there are some comps. There are a few comps that actually really use the soul effectively.
Yeah.
Lily's actually just clapping Doxy right now. Gets the taunt, forces the flash. He's just going to flash it and looking for the knock-up, and nearly finds a solo kill. Maxi is going to make his way over.
Honestly, Maxi man. Look how much
Oh my
damage.
lord, he's doing so much damage.
Yeah, I don't think Maxi was expecting the return. Oh my, what? Everyone's
Shell
fighting.
on Wendelbo's gonna go low. They got the perfect execution to chase. Nearly gets delivered in, and Taiki look at the lock-in down as Stenkirk dashes away to safety. Taiki just about survives that. Nilly is a menace right now.
Yeah, one more spell cast from Stenkirk. Taiki would have dropped too. I mean, both these teams in game 1, game 2, they just want to fight in the early game.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, nice solo kill coming down from Nile, and I mean, Shen's a balanced champion. What can I say? Being able to return that much damage, but he was 2 levels up. In all fairness, he had grasp stacked up. Tiamat also, you know, there's a lot of AD there. So.
Yeah, it's one of
Nilly
those things you
definitely
sometimes underestimate that grasp auto.
Yes, you do. Grasp is a very powerful rune. It should not be underestimated at any point in the game.
Anyone who's experienced laning into a gangplank or playing
Yes,
gangplank
that is
knows,
exactly what I was
grasp
thinking about.
is disgusting.
Yeah, GP. I think GP has probably given so many top laners that form of PTSD. They see the grasp rune. No, please. Herald spawned. I'm actually surprised we didn't see any kind of lane swap from, and especially when they had a lot of priority. I mean, lane swaps have in general kind of fallen our flavor for a lot of teams around the world, really. The first Herald's value is kind of just, it's not prioritized as much, but we are going to see with double solo lane priority from ENCE, it looks like they should pretty much just pick it up for free. And that's going to be the first 2 neutral objectives realistically picked up at little to no cost.
Yeah. Simply is going to make his way over to make sure Taiki does get this nice and easy. Question is where is he going to use it? Where is he going to throw it down? As Wonderbow does need to be a little careful. There's a lot of damage between this bot lane, and cleanse available to Rai, so he's feeling comfortable dealing with that Ash Arrow. Maxi's also making his way down towards this bot side of the map as get the Zenith Blade off. No Solar Flare available. Wonderbow only level 5 at the moment. It's definitely unbreakable. Just means Rai's not going to return any damage, even with the I'll kill you weapon combo.
Yeah, I was going to say, Reihe's working with the old-fashioned 200 years gun combination. I think we've run that meme into the ground this season. I think after he got those, you know, just nerf after nerf.
Look, I'm glad he's dead. I'm so glad he's a dead champion now.
Yeah, it was a very obnoxious meta. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. He
We
wasn't
can
fun
forget
to
about it,
watch. He wasn't fun to play into. He wasn't even that fun to play, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that Barrage ended up taking Aphelios here. I felt like the kind of composition they had going into their AD carry pick, something like Kai'Sa would have sort of fit a little better, just in terms of like they're running such a dive-heavy comp as. Nile could be in trouble, but he's so damn strong. I'm not sure if they really have enough damage to fret.
I'm going to call it the Forge God onto him, but he taunts away to get closer to the tower.
Oh.
Does have himself the shield, but that is just the shutdown, easy as. Nilly falls to Maxi.
Lesson of the day: subjugate makes champions not tanky. That's just how it works. Very clean gank though from Barrage at the end of the day. Not really cost them much. Nile's going to miss a bunch of minions. Foxy's even going to get himself maybe even too late if he decides to stick around. That's a very audacious re-engage, but he does. Oh wow,
Jumping in here, it does take the tower shots, but they're going to Herald.
Oh, they have the Herald, right.
They are just brute forcing mid lane. Zenkox has the charge available, steals it away from Taiki. Be a little bit overeager if he goes for it. The plates will get picked up to keep Kevo in range, and that's the gold spread out pretty equally. That's a couple of plates off. 2 plates left on the mid lane tower. The attention from ENCE is to get the priority in the mid lane so they can translate that into the second dragon. Infernal Drake spawning up any second now.
Yeah, and I really think that Barrage should maybe consider dropping this dragon because simply just picked up his Gunblade. I think that even though the gold was spread quite widely across multiple members of ENCE, that was just about enough gold for him to actually pick up that IM completion, and simply he's online now. All he really needs realistically is the level 11, and then he's, you know, you're going to see some very scary Akali damage come out. So I think this is just going to be a pretty much uncontested dragon from ENCE here. Barrage, I think, making the right call. If they try to do something here, they will just get absolutely rolled over. They've got Stand Unite available too. So I like, again, Barrage showing a little bit of restraint, knowing when to not contest an objective.
Yeah.
But,
It's not
you know, yeah, at the end of the day, though, ENCE are now 2 dragons away from Soul, and they're in...
just horrible. They are looking for the kill onto Nilly. Nilly has flash this time. Call of the Forge God's not quite available. As he flashes away from that, it's going to get caught out. And oh my lord, where did he go?
There's just no magic resist in the inventory of Nilly yet. So pretty much working with base numbers. So he is quite squishy to Silas and Ornn in combination. And Kevo at least on the bot side, yeah.
Bot side, though.
Free plates. So it's still kind of traded out. It looks like Grey Haze also, of course, missing this wave. So I think it's kind of technically a net win for ENCE when you think about where the gold is being distributed, if you want to think about it like that. Thank you, observers, for actually highlighting gold. You can see Kevo is about 700, 600 gold up on Ray. Nile, you know, the gold's equal now, but I'm sure he had a pretty large gold lead before he dropped those 2 kills. Looking elsewhere, it's actually Maxi pulling ahead a little bit, but it's a very incremental lead versus Taiki. And all in all, it's relatively equal. It's kind of just the bottom lane where the biggest gold differential is.
It's pretty big because Wonderboat take a few auto attacks from Kevo, but they're not really feeling staying around here. Mid lane is running the JLP and the Hextech Gunblade. Both those items don't exist anymore, so
Yeah,
next time we're going to see them, really. What item do you miss? What item are you going to miss now?
Okay. And I was a pretty big advocate of this, and I think a lot of Nidalee players were too. Athenes. I don't know why they removed the Fiends. I think it was a pretty good item. And I don't think there's an item that's like taken its place. I guess you could maybe say, I can't remember its name, man. It's like Moon Reader, I think. I haven't played a lot of.
I've actually not played since we've come back on air. I haven't had a chance to play in the day, so I've only had 2 days on the new patch personally, so I can't remember all the items. I'm gonna miss Frozen Mallet.
Yeah,
I know not many
guess.
people built it, but I really liked Frozen Mallet. It's such a fun item.
Gnar players and Doxy specifically probably rolling in their grave with
Yeah.
Mallet gone. Yeah. Rest in peace, Mallet.
Or the patented Voyboy Tristana mid as well. We build Frozen Mallet. I've done it a few times. It is actually really nice. It was really nice just getting that slow on your auto, but unfortunately gone for the game. So
maybe someone picks it up here and just pays homage. That would be cool. It's not gonna happen, but
it's not gonna Could you imagine?
It
Who
would be
would
nice.
build it? Like Kevo doesn't need it. He gets that anyway.
Kevo doesn't need it. Shen, why not?
Yeah, Nilly or Rai are like the only 2 people who could feasibly build it and it not be completely trash. And even so, I'm fairly certain it's probably not that. It's still pretty trash. Anyway.
Probably not that good.
15 minutes into the game, gold lead, 1,000 up for the side of ENCE. Rai will get spotted out from that hawk shot. Tempo has slowed down a little bit, but the objectives still, every time they come up, ENCE do get them. Looks like Barrage may think about contesting this, though. They do have to catch this wave, and Doxy's making his way over. Got that Call of the Forge God available.
This is risky. I don't know.
Very risky. Do have to teleport on both of the mid laners, and they're bringing them in instantly, trying to jump onto Kevo, but they're not giving themselves the opportunity. Kevo just firing away at the backline, but look for Senkux. The flash comes out to knock away from Doxy. In goes Simply onto the sideline, tries to jump out. Senkux gets the fear off onto Taiki. The perfect execution comes in, and Simply is just mopping this up. Right, being executed out slowly, gets caught out by the Graviton, but the chains do connect, and they're trying to find the assassination. Simply finds the double kill. Simply gets out alive, and now Rai locked down by the concussive strikes as Kevo secures the kill. ENCE walk away with it.
Quite frankly, Hiprain, I'm not sure why Barrage felt possessed to have to contest that that Rift Herald. Simply is so strong. I'm not sure if he was level 11 as the fight side. We'll get the replay and we'll see, but the Akali just has absolute free will to do whatever she wants. It's a really nice taunt from Nile, actually stopping the Call of the Forge God too. And Doxy's just completely isolated, and Taiki and Simply just get to wreak havoc in the backline. You see nice perfect execution to just bring down 2 members, and Simply isn't quite allowed to entirely chase down Rai, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The rest of the ENCE lineup is there to mop up, and see Senkux, he tries to pick up Simply, but it's just quite not enough. Not enough, and Rai's gonna pay for it with his life at the end, and I mean...
Big thing to note there was the Rift Herald was taken by Barrage, but no one picked it up.
Oh, wow, that...
Yeah, they were zoned off. Simply, I was watching that back, and actually, Senkux could have gone back into the pit to pick it up, but instead he went for that assassination with costing his life. But the fight is starting out here. Wendelbo caught out. They found a kill already onto Taiki. Nearly taunts over the wall, but Senkux follows up the perfect execution, finds himself the kill, and this should just be Dragon to Barrage.
Yeah, so the reason why this looks like it's happened is because Barrage died and ENCE then, after the fight, pushed out waves and then took a reset. So Barrage were the first ones into the river here. So they had the positional advantage, and it's ENCE that has to kind of face check into this composition. And we see it's why we end up seeing Taiki get picked off here. It's a really nice Zenith Blade and follow-up from Senkux, and it's just CC layered into damage. Taiki and they don't really get to play the game right there. I think Hecarim even had ult, but couldn't even ult out. And that's how fast they died. So nice pickup from Barrage. In all honesty, if they give over that Ocean Dragon, there's a really big timer over their heads. And it feels very horrible to play, but delaying that soul means they're going to have a little bit more freedom to play around with now.
It is a nice one for them. Both of these teams will benefit massively off a Ocean Soul. I mean, Barrage, if they can somehow get it, that's 4 Ocean Dragons on a Soul. Eventually, Rai will really hit that 200 years when he's got the Death Dance as well to work with. So, Doxy trying to see if he can find a little something onto Nilly, but Nilly able to taunt away to safety. The moment, though, Rai only working with just the Infinity Edge. Zeal finish up as a Kevo, so closing in on that Hurricane for himself.
Yeah. Both AD carries on their way to that sort of point where they feel comfortable. And you mentioned, right? Oh, I might have to hold this point. Nilly, I mean, I think he's fine. Yeah, he's got no taunt out. So. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, right, with the Ocean Soul. I'm looking at every other member of Barrage with that Ocean Soul kind of being near unkillable if they do get it.
Yeah.
A lot of health value to be worked through between the front line of Barrage. Simply is going to pick up the 300 gold for himself. Simply's very strong, by the way. I don't know if we've emphasized that enough. He is level 13, joint highest level in the game, 303. Also has the highest DS on his way to the Andre's tournament. I would imagine he probably has it. He's resetting for that right now. Boy, oh boy.
There it is.
That's
a very strong Akali now.
Yeah. And I mean, Barrage really have to be on their best lookout to stop Simply from wreaking havoc on the backline, but it's so hard when you're only really working with Wendelbo as the point and click CC. He kind of just has to sit on Raihai and hope that Simply makes a mistake, doesn't drop Shroud fast enough, and can get point and clicked down. But it's going to be very difficult if Simply is on his A game, and he has been on his A game so far.
I would like to see some XEs come forward, some kind of grievous wounds on both of the teams, to be honest. I mean, Ocean Soul, first of all, whoever gets it, it will help against them. But especially if you're ENCE, Kevo probably wants to get his execution schooling fairly quickly. You've got to deal with Maxi and Senkux and the amount of healing they have to work with. So I actually really would like to see that come through. It's pretty cheap itemization, and it may turn the tides of a team fight, just cutting some of the healing that is available to Senkux with that Kingslayer. Actually curious to see what he's maxing out in this game, so maybe we can toggle down. I can't tell if it's the Q or
W.
It is the W.
He's got W and the Q max. So
yeah. I wonder what he maxed first. I didn't check because me and Orcs talked about this last week. There was a while where a lot of Siluses were maxing the Kingslayer just for the heal and the amount of kind of sustainability it gave. But Orcs also did mention that a lot of Siluses are starting to go back to Q max for the chain lash and just the wave clear that affords you.
Yeah.
Be interested to see what he went for. I honestly didn't see until now.
I would imagine that maybe in a matchup like a Kali, you would want the W max. I think having that much sustain into a lane where you're trading so hard is probably going to pay off more than having the wave clear.
Yeah.
When you should probably take priority in the lane regardless. So. You raise a good point. I would be interested to know what he did with this spot. We are 1 minute away from this next Ocean Dragon, and for the time being, it looks like ENCE just have complete control of the map. Okay, we won the side lane.
Oh, there you go. Senkux is just going to go down. Simply flashes forward, but Nilly will find it with a flash taunt. Taiki sped up.
They still want it.
Maxi's going to get hit. They are looking for this. They've got the concussive blows to stack up, forcing the flash out. Now, Wendelbo has to be a little bit careful. And will force some battles. It's a good time to get the kill, actually. 30 seconds until this Ocean Drake comes up. Remember, this could be sole point for ENCE if they can pick it up here.
Yeah, it's on the cusp of being like a really, really strong time. I think it's still going to make Barrage have to... Oh, okay. They really want more blood.
That's literally been the story of this.
That has been the story.
It's just they want to fight. They want to fight a lot.
Yeah.
Wendellbow could be in trouble here. Simply spotted out on the ward though, as Seth stepping him forward. Looks for the Winter Spike, does quite get it. As they can follow up, they're going to look to lock him down. The solar flares there. Kevo just free-firing, gets the stuns off on the multiple members as their charge is huge from Taiki. Here comes the call of the Forge God. Kevo's frontlining though, has to cleanse away. Doxy jumps onto him. Steph's trying to get the damage off, and all of a sudden Barrage turn it around. Steph is caught out, and now Simply 1 versus 3 jumps in with the ultimate, tries to get one, is going to get it, but he's taken down. Why was Kevo frontlining?
Your guess is as good as mine, Jake. I mean, that was really just a battle of AD carries there. Raihai and Kevo both were just outputting the beat. That was absolutely stellar team fighting until Kevo decided to be a frontliner. So, I mean, honestly, it just started from Maxi sort of just stepping a little bit too far forward, not respecting the fact he doesn't have flash anymore. He just blew it because of an attempted engage. And you see, Maxi, he does get the stopwatch off, right? He does manage to sort of stall out time a bit, but then we see both Hecarim ultimates go back and forth. When you see, look at Kevo, he's just putting out the damage, but he doesn't really respect the fact that the call of the Forge God is coming through and he just gets knocked up. Raihai manages to pick up the kill credit, and we get the chase down onto Sefe, and I mean, both AD carriers really trying to put on a show right there, and eventually Simply does end up trading out, but again, Barrage are the bigger benefactors here. They're the ones that end up picking up the second dragon, and they've again denied the soul point from ENCE.
Yeah, just equalizing out on the Dragons, 2 Ocean Souls as well. Really big stuff for them. Kevo has to be careful. No solar flare available. Seth does jump in, looking to block, but the pillar's there. The charge comes down. Kevo once again frontlining, locking Rai down. This time finds the kill. Kevo will lose his, get a kill off the Wendellbow. They charge Maxi into the team. A double kill for Kevo. And ENCE play that fight a lot smarter this time, and should probably translate that into a Baron.
Yeah, Kevo is realized his path errors and recognizes he is no longer a frontliner. That being said, it was a nice attempt from Barrage, but at the end of the day, there was just a quick enough response from ENCE and a really beautiful ultimate from Taiki to effectively make Rai the frontliner this time around. Ended up getting locked down and put down, as we're going to see ENCE pick up the Baron, and these next few minutes are going to be very telling. But honestly, as time goes on, I grow more and more concerned for this Barrage draft, as we're just seeing the replay on our screen. Rai gets ulted by Taiki, and Kevo's effectively able to, I wouldn't necessarily call it free him, but right-click him enough, and he drops. And I mean, we kind of said Barrage in draft, they took a very different direction to what they were working with in game 1, and we had questions of, was it really necessary? And they put themselves in a position where there weren't too many great AD carries up. I think similarly to last game too, but you know, they were still able to eventually fall back on the Jhin. And here, Aphelios, it's not looking great. It's not looking great, and it's certainly a strange time to pick it when you see the Hecarim and the Akali with you don't have great pills. So we'll have to see whether Barrage are able to pilot out the Baron buff here, but ENCE, they really do just have full priority on the map right now.
They really do. Now, ENCE with this Baron, they are going to be able to take down their third turret in the top lane. So that's now all of the tier 1 turrets down, and Simply quite happy to split push away. Kevo catching the waves mid lane. Got that Infinity Edge finished up after the Baron and a couple of kills. He was able to pick himself up. Does need to be a little bit careful, as people are waiting about in the wings potentially for him. He hawk shots in the wrong direction. Just spy out a little bit of the vision, but
yeah, he just
Barrage
to his strong side.
Now Wendellbow will spot him out here. Wendellbow may find himself spot out here. He's going to be able to get away to safety towards his team. Nilly on the other side of the map, pushing up into the tier 2 bot side.
Yeah, and ENCE doing a good job at sort of just playing around the map at the moment, though. Nilly could find himself in a bit of trouble. He should realistically just be able to do that. And they're stretching Barrage's numbers a little thin here. Fortunately for Barrage, they are still working with just the inner towers, but realistically, the mid lane tower should drop on perhaps the next wave. We are going to see a rotation potentially from ENCE to the top side. I mean, Barrage can't really retaliate to either side lane without losing anything. They would have to commit, 4 members for Simply, and even then they'll maybe even lose out on an inhibitor tower. Worst case, the inhib itself. But Zencox is actually able to push Nile all the way back to bottom tier 1. Maybe Nile just kind of yielded the lane pressure, but I think all things considered, they've really held out the Baron siege quite well.
Yeah, they have. They lost a tower and a half, I guess. Mid lane got chunked a little bit. But yeah, I think Nilly saw the rest of his team resetting and decided he didn't want to overstay shoved alone on the map when he is the one that if someone's shoved, he can help with his ultimate. So no one can ult to him. Yeah. Right now with the Hurricane finished up. Got a bit more attack speed as well. These Infernums are going to bounce around, do a fair amount of damage. It is always the concern here if you are ENCE's, especially if Ocean Soul comes forward and Rai gets to kind of late game Aphelios, he could 200 years them. We'll have to find out. At the moment, ENCE, a couple of team fights, one of them not so great, one of them pretty decent. So we'll have to see how the execution really breaks out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Barrage might just give this dragon. And simply because they don't really feel comfortable with how the last few skirmishes have gone, they just look to try and pick up some more side lane farm and try and get right to that free item point. But in the same breath, you're giving ENCE a little more time to lay down this 1-3-1 pressure. This is potentially not even too horrible for Simply, to be honest.
Well, yeah, actually has got himself the taunt to work with, has got the shutdown as Nilly secures that one. Taiki will be looking to run Wendelbow out here. So Wendelbow flashes away to safety, but he's going to get himself a light stun off. The rest of the team are collapsing in. The Shuriken flip should be enough. A couple more 5-point strikes to get the slowdown, and Wendelbow will get bopped back and taken out. Taiki secures the kill. Rai in the meantime, getting a bit of free time on this mid lane turret, but Kevin's already made his way over to pick this up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's Barrage looking for a play on a side lane with Shen in the game. And Doxy doesn't really want to TP or commit, and quite frankly, Simply's too strong. He just practically one-shots Zencox almost by himself. And I'm not sure what Barrage can realistically do to come back into this game without it being like ENCE era. Like, ENCE have to just miss position and Barrage have to punish that. Outside of that, I genuinely don't see a way back in for Barrage from this point, bar like a miracle team fight where we see Aphelios of old.
I love that skin.
Yeah, that's a cool skin. Senna gets the horse animation too, right? On the
yes, she does. Her gun turns into a horse.
Yeah, I think Senna's
it's kind of metal actually when you think about it.
Oh yeah. I think Senna's skin is a little cooler though. You get the whole she like shouts yeehaw when she
sound effects are amazing on that.
Yes, they are.
They are really, really good. Also, Ash has the dragon one now, which is really nice.
Oh yeah, that's right. New dragon skin's pretty cool.
If you want to get yourself a skin, actually,
I was doing a giveaway with
MasterCard. If you head over to our Twitter, there's actually a link up. I checked earlier because I was like, that's a lot of RP given away, and I think, don't quote me on this, I might get told by my juicer. Is it 10 people can win per day? Or am I completely off on that? Yes. Thank you, Matt. Okay. So 10 people can win per day, and I checked earlier, and there were only 94 entries. Which means guys, the odds are actually pretty good, and it's multiple entry. It's one of those multiple entry things as well. So it's actually quite a lot. I don't know if I can enter. Max, can I enter?
Are we allowed to enter? That sounds pretty good.
Hey, I read online that there's a luck skin coming out, so he says I don't know. Well, probably not. Guys. To be honest, there's probably a very good chance we can't enter.
Yeah, I think we're probably not allowed to. As Baron spawned up, by the way. I know we've been joking a little bit about RP and skins, but the giveaway is quite nice. Go in though. It's good. And they look to start the Baron, but
not quite feeling it yet. They have nearly with Stan United on the other side of the map, so you can always join. Simply waiting in the wings of a teleport. Look at the ward behind as well. He can join in at any moment. Taiki's coming here. The Asher is connected. Looks like the fight's going to break out. Doxy waiting in the wings, and actually teleport was thrown out by Simply.
Oh,
Seth, flash
Bring his
forward,
foot.
Glacial Fisher on. He's got the Ornn ultimate. Here comes the charge. Here comes the turnaround. Over the wall, Kevo is firing up on the sidelines, completely untouched. Senkuk's gone golden for the moment and Simply gets himself a double kill. Doxy caught out for the moment. Simply Shuriken flips into the fight once again, and Maxi is the only one standing. A triple kill for Simply as ENCE take 4.
And honestly, there's no reason for me to believe that ENCE can't just end on this push here. It's just a lone tank Trundle. AD carry, whole bunch of champions that will take down these towers pretty fast. If Rain, I think we're going to game 3.
The Baron was just a bait. Inhibitor's going to fall down. They've got the minions to work with. They've still got the Ashe. They've still got the Akali. The Triforce on Taiki. He's going to be able to take this turret out nice and quick as Maxi going to get locked up as well. One last glory kill as a perfect execution comes forward for the delayed ace. The Nexus will go down. And Jamada, we're going to game number 3. ENCE tied the score.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, ENCE, they step it up. They stepped it up from game 1 here, and even with that being said, I think rightfully so, we have to point questions towards the Barrage draft here, because realistically, it seemed nearly impossible from the get-go for them to really get things going. It seemed like they never really had a lane to necessarily play around. They ended up giving over the first couple of objectives. And yes, there was that point in the mid-game where they came back into it, but it felt more or less like ENCE sort of half-gifted those opportunities over, and it was just Barrage punishing, which we've seen a lot of from Barrage in this tournament, but they weren't able to convert it into anything meaningful, and ENCE eventually just rolled it over with the Akali pick. So
yeah, honestly, really, really solid stuff there from ENCE. We saw some life in them in game 1, and it didn't look like Barrage fell over and just kind of gave this game up as well. There were good team fights from them, and honestly, it looks like these teams are really well matched. This honestly looks like a kind of like a finals matchup more than anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the way the cookie crumbles, it is actually going to be a semi-final where they match up. But with that, we are 1 apiece, and we're going to go to the analyst desk after this break, where they're going to break it down a little bit more. So we'll see you in a minute.
No matter what, we're gonna keep moving on.
Well, we are 1-1 in the series, and honestly, my feelings from the draft have not changed, and that really only just confirmed it. That was a bit of an int from Barrage from the very get-go. If I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That was the worst draft I've seen them do all tournament. I actually, why did you just not pick Hecarim and play the same game plan again? I don't know.
I hated it. Every single second of it from start to finish, when it was locked in, from when I saw it in action to I saw it almost coming back, and then when it just got dumpstered again, it was disastrous. Actually atrocious. Don't ever do that again. You might as well. I mean, I'm being a bit harsh.
We're being overly dramatically harsh.
But
clearly,
in reality, I think that ENCE missed some tools that they needed in game one, and then you gave them those tools, and I think ENCE shined a lot when you saw what they could do with those tools. I think you see when you have a Shen, when you got the backline damage, when you can actually peel Kevo in fights, how hard it is to play into it. And I think with the comp that Barrage drafted, they really felt that pressure, and they felt how hard it was to beat ENCE in a team fight.
Yeah, I think honestly, what just blew my mind is I could see this draft coming out in a game one and would be critical of Barrage. But the reason we're so critical is because they had it in the bag. Game one, that they drafted an appropriate comp that could deal with Kevo, and it worked out great. And then the second draft was panning out in a similar way, and I was like, cool, let's look at ENCE and see what adaptations they make. But it was Barrage who started adapting stuff, and I'm like, why? The draft has gone the same direction so far, the exact same. You won game one, you had all the tools you needed. Why change something? I have no idea.
Yeah, well, I think clearly either they were trying to limit test or they just thought that they were going to look for another strategy. I don't know, but now we are going into the final game of the series. ENCE could quite genuinely topple Barrage here, and that would prove every single prediction wrong, and also really put the tournament favorites in a bit of an awkward position. Well, not even an awkward position, they'll be out of the tournament. So we're going to actually have a look back at one of the key moments in that game. Orcs is about to ruin our entire careers again, so take it away.
Yeah, so we saw a clip from the last game where we were talking about how Kevo actually played things pretty well and still ended up going down. And this is the opposite. This is where Barrage actually managed to land the abilities they need, but because Kevo has the summoners and because they don't have as many tools, they're just unable to make it work. So initially coming on an approach, just hone in really heavily on Kevo here, and we'll go through the process of what they're trying to land him. So first off, we get the Solar Flare coming in from Wendelbow. So this lands exactly on top of him, and it actually comes down to the cleanse being used in this situation to get him away. And then he starts kiting over the side with some great peel from the Braum. But again, there's a beautiful flash that comes in because we actually see Doxy use his slam against the wall. So at this point, Kevo has no summoners at all. So this would be the perfect opportunity for Senkux to look for an engage if he had follow-up. But you see, he actually steals away the ultimate in this situation and instead opts to move away from Kevo. And the reason being is because he has no follow-up. Doxy has nothing left and he's low on HP, as you can see over here. And the rest of the team is kiting back because of the threat from Simply there. So with the rest of the team moving in this direction, he knows he can't go further. If this had been game one, we literally would have seen him just use the Hecarim ult over here, and then we would have seen Galio follow up, and Kevo would have been dead. But because they don't have those same tools, he has to back away. And yes, he is able to take down Taiki, but he's unable to really threaten Kevo. So Kevo can start moving up the fight. And at this point, with this many members left, Rai is threatened by the Akali, can't really do anything in this situation. Doxy's he's out of there, he's done. And we can see that Senkux is left with 3 members there. And it's just a completely different state of the fight from game one. If they had those extra tools, this could have been a winning fight, but without them, they end up falling flat on their faces.
Well, Orcs, I'm going to rate that 7 out of 10 because the color of your arrows was awful. However, it was still an incredibly well broken down fight. So, I've got to be critical since you set the bar so high on the first one, Orcs. You set it really high. Gonna have to just be a little bit more critical here. The color of the arrows, it didn't do it.
The arrows,
didn't do it for me.
I believe you're a color caster with those colors.
I was messing up with the color settings, trying to work out what the hotkeys were, and I think I just screwed it. But I hope everyone got the impact of that and how.
Actually, Orcs, I'm getting this in right now. Coming from my director, you're fired. Okay. So we are going to head towards a break, and we're going to be going to our third game of the series. Orcs is off. See you later. We are straight into Champion Select for our third game of the series. Barrage now on blue side, not having that red side advantage that they had previously. And this is it for them. They need to shape things up. I don't want to see any kind of int drafts if they want to take this series, which I do want them to take the series because I kind of predict them. But I would be keen to see ENCE, potentially upset the apple cart. It would be cool to see that too.
How huge would that be? Like, Lydia, I don't think there's anyone anticipating ENCE coming into beating Barrage here today. They are the second seed of, basically the last tournament we had. Went through the UP Master Play-ins, lost to LDLC, and now ENCE with a really rough start. Match point, it's legit 1-1. Team that wins this one, you're straight to finals. Team that's out, you're just out.
There's an interesting adaptation here, though. So Karthus has actually been left open with Hecarim being banned away. So a bit of a switch up here. And I think Barrage can be comfortable that they know this is a big pick for Maxi, but not so much for Taiki. So potentially not even forced to take that so early. But we'll see what Barrage end up going towards. They're actually going to take the Lucian as a first pick. So I think this works great for them. We talk a lot about how Barrage's solo laners love to have a ton of pressure. This allows some flexibility between them, but also strong priority for Maxi.
Yeah, and also AD mid, AP jungle. It's potentially we're potentially going to see that combo coming through. Plus, they're not messing around. Like Lucian is top tier mid lane pick. So the Karthus actually comes through from Taiki here. They knew that it was the case, and now again there are some AP jungles left up. We'll have to see which ones they would potentially think about. But Gragas being an obvious choice for Maxi if he was to go down that route.
Yeah, I actually love the confidence coming out here from ENCE just to pick it up themselves. I feel like maybe Barrage weren't expecting that, based on how they let the earlier bans go, and looking to pick up the Gragas as a response. So does well in sort of team fights to disengage the Karthus, keep him away. But I think in terms of what the global pressure is offered already from this ENCE composition, this sets you up really well for a Nilly counter pick last pick. So you can have a strong side laner. You have the Ash Shower, you have the Karthus ult to assist him in that lane. And with the counter pick, we've seen him before really run away with the game.
And Gulborg, when the chips, I was going to say when the chips are down, they just go for the Ray Ezreal. That's what I was going to say. Like this is just like they need the win. They go for the things that they think will net them the win here.
Yeah, so we got double AD carries composition coming into this one. I don't see Zed being the champions we're going to see here. I think the Syndra makes way more sense. It is one of those matches that Lucian can still struggle a bit in, but yeah.
So we are into the second ban phase. The Ornn gets banned away. Okay, so we're going to see some difference in the top side. The Braum not going to come through this once more. What do you think about these drafts shaping up now, though? Like we're seeing, I would say, kind of a mid lane Lucian, which does tend to fall off as you get towards the later stages of the game. You're going into a Karthus and Ashe, which you know have got scaling potential. What do you think about the comps that we're seeing right now, Gulborg?
Well, they're shaping up. There's a lot of AP damage already on the side of ENCE here, so that's something that we need to take into account. So you want to get some strong AD top laners onto the side of you on that side here as well. You also need some engage, because right now the only form of engage is the kind of pickup you can get from the Syndra or the Ashe, but there's not much you can really do to skirmish around it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Leon is a perfect pickup here for ENCE. Braum's not there as an answer, and I think it provides a lot of engage from the bot lane in general. And then you have a mid laner who's going to be able to at least challenge Lucian for prio, definitely in the 80 levels. Darksphere is pretty effective in that regard. And if you actually challenge Senkux and that, you can find a good lane matchup. But critically, Nilly counter pick could actually really just solidify this entire composition. And it looks like instead of going for the Leon, they're going for the Pantheon. So really strong, aggressive pick. And it really allows Seth to roam about and have an impact on the map. And I think it sets up well with the Karthus, because you can get someone pretty low off the back of a Pantheon. Like, there's a lot of single target damage coming out from the Pantheon, the Ashe, the Syndra, really powerful for making picks. And then the Karthus is there to follow up with the ultimate.
I think we're going to wait to see. I think, again, if they're going for like pure comfort, Jamada actually just mentioned this, that maybe Gnar comes through because of the Irelia ban here for Doxy. Like, again, that's a pure comfort pick for him in that scenario. You know, if you're looking for Ray Ezreal or Ray Ezreal, you're going to go for Doxy's Gnar. Like, when you need to win a game, you kind of default back to the things that you know that you can perform on. So these are options for Barrage to consider here. However, it's the Malphite. The Malphite comes through here for Doxy in the top lane. I really feel like if this game goes too far, if this game goes too late, I'm a little worried for Barrage.
Yeah, I'm kind of a bit confused here because I mean, Malphite's good at providing that backline threat that we felt that we're missing from last game, but here there's a lot of AP damage already from ENCE, which isn't really great for itemizing in terms of the Malphite. And with this counter pick, Nilly has so many choices. I feel like he could have gone for a split pusher, he could have gone for something like the Vladimir to really provide pressure in the later game team fights. Instead, he goes to the Renekton, which a bit of a question mark for me, in all honesty. I feel like, you know, you have enough AD damage from your bot lane. I feel like you really had an opportunity for Nilly to put the nail in the coffin with a strong counter pick there, because right now I think Barrage's composition seems a little bit disjointed to me, but I think the Renekton really means, although you have a good lane to play through, I don't think you are lacking that for ENCE. So I'm not too sold on either team. I think ENCE really had this draft in the bag, and then at the final moment kind of gave Barrage a little bit of an out. There is still obviously opportunities Barrage can look to execute on this, but I'm not convinced from either side.
Yeah, I completely agree, by the way. But I think, though, when it comes to Barrage, we are looking at the pressure you can gain from Senkuk and Maxi, and you want to apply that pressure down in the bot side. I think both teams wanted to get the pressure down in the bot side here. You have to set up with the Leona on the side of Barrage. You have to set up a Pantheon with the nuclear artillery coming in from a Karthus ultimate. And then you can kind of get the Renekton in there, so it's kind of just weird. It's nothing that really adds to it, but I think it's really going to come down to the execution of this one, because you both have something you can play towards. It's just not the ideal draft we could hope for.
Yeah, I think Orc said, you know, and you both can correctly mention that top lane pick feels a little lackluster, but maybe they're just looking for someone to act as tackle in fights, act as someone who's going to be on that front line. It's a bit more of a nuisance to deal with, where the rest of the team is kind of left to their own devices. So maybe that's kind of where the Renekton comes in that scenario. We'll have to see. It's a really important matchup. Guys, I'm actually going to put you on the spot very quickly before I go to casters. ENCE or Barrage in this final game? Quick one word.
Denmark.
ENCE.
Okay, so ENCE and then Barrage. So that's what I'm going to go for here. Split desk. Let's see how it goes. Hand it over to our casters. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel. The question is will Denmark or will ENCE be able to close this game out? Looks like the desk seem pretty scattered on the draft here. They feel like, Barrage, it's not the best, and same for ENCE here. What you'd rather have seen? What would you have seen in this comp? What do you like? What do you like? What do you dislike, I guess, is the best question.
I think I'm kind of looking over it because I've got it on my second monitor here. I think a Fiora pick would have actually made a whole bunch of sense, because you're never really going to be too pressured out by the Malphite.
Yeah.
You're going to outscale it. It's an AD top laner. Lucian can't even really match it either in the later stages of the game. And you've got double global to supplement it. So I think Fiora would have worked almost perfectly, to be totally honest with you. But I agree with both Gulborg and Orcs here. It's a very strange round out to both of these compositions, but when you end up with comps like this, as Gulborg rightfully highlighted, it just comes down to execution now. It's near full comfort. There are quite a few sort of, I wouldn't say out of meta champions, but champions you don't see, commonly. So it is really going to be about full on, how do ENCE, how do Barrage play towards the strengths that they have at least drafted for themselves?
Well, it's been a bloody game. It's been a bloody series. A lot of scrapping between these teams, and this time the Braum hasn't been picked up for Seth, so with it being banned anyway. So expect to see probably no invades this time, which we've had in the first two games.
Yeah, no Braum. So neither side really wants to take a scuffle. But I'm expecting a lot of priority from this ENCE bottom lane, though. Pantheon Ashe is maybe the most oppressive bot lane in the game at the moment on this patch. I think Ashe Braum probably comes close, but mutually exclusive, so you can't have Ashe and Pantheon versus Ashe and Braum. So I think Ashe and Pantheon probably takes it, and it's going to be hard for an Ezreal to actually contest a lot of the priority. I'm surprised Cephei opted into walking out of the bush there. You can look for a level 1 cheese. But
yeah, that was a bit of an oof really there, but he's okay. He's just going to step back as Wendelboe actually lands the Zenith Blade. He's not been thrown down. They just got the stun onto him. Wendelboe going very low. Kevo's trying to put the damage in, but Seth also going low. The heal comes out. The flash goes down. Kevo finds first blood, and Seth's out. They're looking to turn it onto Rai. Can Seth find another stun? That's the question. Or will he be able to dodge out? He is trying to get it, and that's going to be the turnaround there for Rai. But Kevo should get himself a double kill. Easy peasy. Kevo gets 2 kills to start the game off.
I am quite frankly dumbfounded. All right, let's look at the replay here. So Wendelboe feels like he has to take a Zenith Blade. And immediately Sefe just ignites him, stuns him up. Wendelbo is forced to flash out, and Kevo's allowed to just pick him up. And Rai, unfortunately, misses out on too many Mystic shots, and Sefe is really limit testing right here. He very easily could have not tanked those couple of autos and then just walked back in once he had stun available, because I think he was playing on the edge of the cooldown being up, and he unfortunately dies for it. So honestly, that could have gone far worse for Barrage, but I mean, that's Kevo picking up 2 really early kills. He's coming back to lane with double longsword. There's no summoners on Rai or Wendelbo, and Kevo still has his flash. So there's something to be said about this bottom side now for ENCE to sort of play towards, but we are seeing Wendelbo and Rai assisting Maxi and sort of pushing Taiki out of his bottom side jungle. And you'd imagine Maxi should be able to pick up that Skull Crab, though if ENCE managed to bounce out this wave quick enough, they could think about contesting it, but I don't see it likely happening.
Yeah, Steph will spot out where this is going down. Taiki will have to give up the Scuttle Crab. The question is he going to get double crabbed by Maxi?
Looks like it.
As yeah, I mean, mid lane's pushing in.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything he can do here.
And I mean, it's actually not the end of the world, because Taiki's already full cleared his jungle and his top side's going to be respawning anyway. So by the time he gets through Krugs, Raptors, and Wolves, he should tick level 5. So yes, like the net is Taiki doesn't actually get Skull Crab. Things can get rough if Maxi is allowed to perhaps counter jungle this Raptor camp, because the second spawn, but Taiki's still going to be okay at the end of the day. Like, he's not too fussed about it. I would have actually liked to have seen him path towards the top side first, just because of how things ended up. But honestly, I think he just committed to his path, and that was the end of it. As a Maxi wants to help Doxy push out the lane. Yes, what that is. So Taiki's still fine, even though he gave out the double skull. That's the TLDR, guys. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Ultimately, it's okay. It's not bad. Now, Kevo has got himself a CS advantage over Rai, although there's a massive wave crashing in. Remember, after that first blood went down, Kevo base, he didn't even catch a single bit of CS. He actually went back to base to spend the gold. The teleport came in from Rai, so he could get on the wave first. So that's why the CS is so close, despite Kevo winning that level 1 fight. And now Nilly, speaking of winning fights, actually starting to take his bit of damage onto Doxy there, really chunking him out. Hasn't been a base yet, so expect to see a Tiamat come through fairly soon for Nilly. At the moment, looks like he's actually looking to hold the wave here and deny Doxy any farm.
Actually, speaking of Renekton build, I'd like to see him just avoid the Tiamat. I think it would be better for him to go into probably just Blade of the Ruined King and a Black Cleaver, I think, dealing with the Malphite on the side lane. You don't really need the wave clear. And sometimes you might want to just hold the wave in a position like this where Tiamat doesn't really let you get to do that. So we'll have to see what choice he makes, though, because it will be important at the end of the day.
And he jumps in, goes for a trade versus Doxy, jumps back out, gets chunked out very heavily by Doxy. Got that Bramble Vest now, so Nilly not really doing too much to cut through him at the moment.
Yeah, nice little top lane POV. Now we're on the opposite side of the map, where for now the Barrage bottom lane are getting themselves prio. I wonder if Maxi wants to convert this into a dragon. Does have mid lane priority too, and I think the answer looks like yes.
I mean,
Taiki doesn't really have the resource bar for it.
He has shove in every lane at the moment.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit scary for Taiki when you kind of want your lanes not to be shoved in. You don't want to allow Maxi to free invade you. You just want to farm up a storm on the Karthus.
Yeah. So fortunately for Taiki and ENCE, this isn't like one of the more abusive jungle matchups that Karthus can roll into. So even though there is a bunch of lane priority here, it's not like he's playing versus something like a Graves or a Nidalee where, you know, losing out on lane priority as Karthus can be really devastating. But, you know, losing out on some early objectives, it's not going to feel nice, and it can, you know, effectively put sort of an artificial timer on your game. And that kind of thing can be important because it can make you make mistakes, especially in a game 3 of a series, game decider. If you feel pressured into making a play when you don't necessarily have to, that's when mistakes happen. And we've seen both these teams be very punishing when teams feel the need to try and make proactive plays.
Both of these teams have been making proactive plays throughout this series as well, and been punished and won them. It's been such a back and forth series. It's made it so exciting. It's nearly getting chunked out pretty heavily by Doxy. He has gone for that Tiamat build, so wants to be able to play for the shove and then potential rotations. Obviously it does mean he's lacking any kind of tankiness. Hence why Doxy was able to get a pretty decent trade into him. As Taiki's looking to steal away this blue buff, actually. should just get this with the fact he's got Nilly roaming over. So Taiki steals away the blue. Needs to be careful though. Maxi's rotating towards him. Got the flash belly bop, and Taiki flashes over the wall, but Maxi with the Predator on can just hunt him down, puts up the wall, puts up the slow. Can Taiki get out of this one? No, he cannot. Does have himself the ultimate though, as here it comes. The rain is firing down as Barrage. Not really going to take too much damage from that one. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Kevo and Seth are going to get some free time on this tower.
Yeah, so that was a bit of an anger retaliation or an Alright, we're gonna ignore that one. No, we didn't see that one. Yeah, Taiki just casting off. Feels like Maxi's gonna die, but look at his items. He doesn't really have that much AP. It's not like he had the runic echoes available to him or anything like that. And Maxi just presses the W key, he gets health back, and he gets tankier. So it's a nice pickup for Maxi, just realizing that Taiki's taking greedy pathing and punishes him for it. And because of the rotation,
that would have been nice if Taiki got away. That would have been nice because he could have got out of that one and then translated that into a blue buff for him and Simply. Now it's going to have to just be given over to Simply. So both denying a blue buff from each of them. And I want to see Maxi try and translate some early objectives because Karthus not really that great at objective control, especially when a lot of his lanes are getting pretty heavily shoved in. So I'd like to see him try and pick up this Rift Herald nice and early, although that is the one side of the map where he's not particularly comfortable. Nilly heavily shoveling in Doxy.
Yeah, I think if you're Maxi, you don't really want to play towards the top side like often, as I might have to hold this point because Cephei, I mean, he's Pantheon anyway. So.
He's all right. He's going to take a lot of damage though, but is able to put the Aegis up at the end to get any follow-up damage that potentially could come through. Kevo, okay, just farming up here. Got a pretty heavy lead over Rise. Got the Cutlass, got the Berserker's Greaves, and if we toggle between the gold between the AD carries, you can see slight lead has opened up, and at the moment, Kevo's gold is invested in combat stats where he's got a Tear and a Sheen, so a little bit weaker at the moment, but Barrage will pick up this first Rift Herald for himself. Taiki on the opposite side of the map, looking to get the Krugs.
Yeah, this feels bad if you're right. Oh, Taiki doesn't have Smite, never mind. He got it. He got it, but I think the punishing thing here is, of course, he's getting zoned out of a lot of CS and he's already far behind.
Yeah.
Kevo, I mean, honestly, I can't remember how much gold he had actually in his bank, but he's probably, okay, like 2 more bases away from his first line. Thank you, Observer, I appreciate you, don't worry. I mean, a lot of posturing towards the bottom side, but I don't think anything's really going to come of it. And I like this. It's not one of the hardest punishes in the world, but ENCE aren't just rolling over and giving the Herald for free, right? They're at least sort of denying away some of that CS and experience from Riot, and they're allowing Kevo to just sort of get stronger and stronger. And honestly, both of these AD carries have kind of been the focal points of these teams when it comes to it. And I'm going to have to hold the point because Barrage really don't like simply farming under his
Three-man's True Shot Barrage actually chunks him out pretty heavily there, right? Doing pretty decent damage. Here comes the Ash Arrow onto Senkux. Dashes away with the Relentless Pursuit. Pixel perfect dash there from Senkux to survive. He knows it.
You know, Ezreal Ultimate has a lot of damage just front-loaded into it, considering he doesn't have any AD or AP. He's just 350 damage for the fun of it, but Herald here going to be popped. Will crash. I think it's only going to take 2 plates, though. Really close.
They get that last. Nope, they're able to hold it.
They'll be able to hold
Dragon's up, and
yeah,
maybe these teams are going to look to contest. I feel like if you're ENCE, you're probably okay just giving this one up. You have got a 500 lead, but it's not really enough to hard force here.
Yeah, I think realistically, you don't have Ash Arrow. You don't really want to look for like fights right now. Taiki, I mean, he has his Runic Echoes, but he's not really caught this yet. He's almost there, but he's not quite there. And Kevo, he doesn't have the full item completed. And even though realistically, you know, you can kind of look at the side of Barrage and say, hey, they're not working with a whole bunch either. If ENCE were to try and fight this dragon and then they flip it and it goes bad, Barrage can just take over this game. You've already seen Doxy's on multiple occasions roam down towards the mid lane. Barrage have had a lot of priority on this map, quite simply just Karthus existing. He can't really lay down pressure. He doesn't have objective control as he's highlighted, and I think, okay, it's Cloud. I thought we had Mountain Dragon again, but We do have Mountain, Cloud this time. And
actually, I was talking
that's
about the strengths of Cloud. This
Yeah.
is genuinely for ENCE. They are a team that
Yeah.
actually really would use that Cloud Drake effectively.
I
On
think
the
it's
Ash
both
Arrow, Taiki won't get really the benefit of the after-cast movement speed, but getting the Carthasar up as much as possible means you can maybe start to use it for poke, because they will be looking at 40% Cloud Drake if they get Soul. But Barrage at the moment are the ones in the commanding lead as far as the Dragons go. So you have to keep that in mind.
yeah, both these teams, again, actually, it's a really high-value Cloud game. A lot of these champions on the cast there are realistically off cooldown if they're allowed to.
Yeah.
Particularly Sefe and Taiki, double globals, and especially when the cooldowns are that long, the Cloud Dragon has even more value just because of a bunch of math stuff.
It's really nice for Doxy as well, because he can ult into the team and then reposition out of like a dangerous position with the movement speed he gets off.
Okay,
and obviously the seismic shard movement speed he can steal away. Actually, really nice there for Doxy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, realistically, once Doxy hits level 11, there's just like no cooldown on the Malphite armor for some reason. But yeah, the movement speed is really actually quite nice, especially into full range comp as Wendelbow fires true, forces Simply to flash. And Nilly...
He does look for Rai here. Catches him out of the tower. Seth actually jumps underneath. They got the teleport coming in. Here comes the ulti. Seth will just lose his life to Rai. Now the True Shot Barrage goes a little bit wide. Doxy's here. Nilly, only one left standing. He's going to get bopped in. Tries to slice and dice onto Rai, but Doxy will just rugby tackle him over the wall to make sure he's not getting in.
Oh, I just had an image of like a young child just being just bodied by like Boris Johnson or something. Do you remember that football match?
Yeah, I
match?
remember that.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
all our fans who aren't from the UK, back when Boris Johnson wasn't the leader of the UK and he was just the London mayor, he did a rugby game where he actually just rugby tackled a
no,
child.
I think it was a football game. It was a football game, but he still... I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to talk... I just really have to ask what Nilly... I mean, ENCE just looked really disjointed on that play. They wanted Rai, but I don't know why they wanted Rai. I don't know what it actually achieved for them other than finding the pick itself and maybe the tower on the back end. And I guess, yeah, there's no objectives up, so like you kind of look for it, but I mean, if Barrage are able to respond that quickly, then the play's not sound. Like, it's not a good play. And
you can see it was disjointed as well, because they go in, Seth then ults after Nilly pulled away, and then he was like, well, I guess we're committing. Doxy's really beating up Nilly now.
Yeah, I mean, Renekton joined the game, and there was no jungler to play towards the Renekton. So here we are, 15 minutes into the game with a crocodile that's honestly not that scary. Senkox should be able to deal with him as time goes on. Something to note, actually, Senkox hasn't gone for the mana build. He's opted out entirely of the mana build.
Looks like it would be Essence Reaver first then.
Yeah, Essence Reaver first, it looks like. So there is going to be that slight, you know, the scaling curve is a little, what's the word? It's not as steep as you would have it if it was the
You get
mana.
an earlier spike, but less damage overall.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Now, it does look like ENCE are looking to pick up their first Rift Herald of this game. Doxy will spot them out, does have the unstoppable force available to him, but not sure if he's really feeling it. There should just be a Rift Herald picked up for ENCE, and they can maybe use this to translate into a tower. Remember, the plates have fallen off, and they've actually got priority in the mid lane currently. Wave's been trimmed out pretty heavily, though, and tower's not actually that low. But I would like to see them try and use this to get first turret blood, because all of their turrets are very low right now.
Yeah,
Kevo
like
has to flash away. Honestly, Wendelbow with these solar flares in the mid have been so good.
Yeah, one thing to note also, Kevo doesn't have cleanse, so the next time that solar flare is aimed true, I mean, Wendelbow's had some pretty good ultimates back to back here. He's gonna get stunned up, and chances are he will die. There will be a cast follow-up, so we are just gonna see ENCE yield another dragon, and this time there's no cross map, at least not immediately. Wasn't really planned out this time, so ENCE, whatever play they do make is going to be on the back foot, and they're probably going to lose something else for it. And it looks like, given the posturing of Barrage, that it's going to be the retaliation mid lane tower. And I don't know, ENCE are not looking too hot right now. like chances.
No, this is a
I thought-
very
like,
different ENCE from what we saw in game number 1 and 2. Now, first Turret Blood is picked up for ENCE. They may get a second charge out from Nilly. No one's really in area to get close enough. Remember, Nilly with his Tiamat will shove out the way fairly quick, but looks like they are rotating some people over. Second charge will come out as Doxy will not be able to defend this. Wonderbow gets caught by Steph. A couple of tower shots landing onto Steph though as he tries to block up with the Aegis, gets chunked out really heavily, dodges away from the True Shot Barrage. The heal comes out from Simply over the wall. Wonderbow has to go golden. Health bars are low on the members of ENCE, but same for the members of Barrage. Wonderbow chunked out massively here, and Senkux now feeling it. As the rain comes down, the Requiem will secure the first kill for Taiki. Wonderbow loses his life.
Yeah. When did he use his stopwatch? Did we see him use his stopwatch? Are our memories just bad?
He stopwatched in that fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ah, well, that's unfortunate. Taiki picks up a free kill then. And I mean, this is it's a much slower game than we've had in our past 2 games. If you're wondering why we're being a little more mellow, it's for that reason. I think we were both kind of expecting a bloodbath here, but both teams have really reined it in for game 3. But I've got to say, like, when will ENCE actually contest the Dragon? I mean, it's not the most impactful soul in the game, right? You know, it's not like it's an Infernal Soul or a Mountain Soul, which is going to make the front line unkillable for Barrage. But at the end of the day, what's ENCE's game plan right now? Because, you know, you've got this Ashe that's fed, great. Wonderbow presses the Archie on the Ashe, and then all of a sudden, you know, Ashe either has to flash or die. You can't really team fight realistically, I think, into this comp. It just looks like it's going to be way too difficult. Simply hasn't really had a way into this game yet. They haven't really found an opportunity to get him into a decent skirmish where he's allowed to just blow up Rehe or Senkux. So side lane wise, then you look towards, I mean, Renekton's not really going to be able to deal with Malphite for a whole bunch longer. I'm not saying that he's going to lose out on the side lane, but Doxy should realistically be able to hold out. And it just feels weird. I feel like we had 2 weird compositions drafted, but ENCE sort of on the back foot in map priority.
Yeah.
It just feels like a bad game state.
I think the other thing to talk about as well is the fact that this Cloud Drake, if it goes down for Barrage in the next 2 minutes, it not only gives him the Cloud Soul, and like you said, it's not the most impactful thing, but what it does mean is we'll be looking at a very, very early Elder Dragon. And
yeah,
if ENCE are this hesitant to contest any more dragons, and then they're looking at an early Elder Dragon, it could potentially just be one big team fight for Barrage that just blows this game wide open, because ultimately the gold's pretty close between both of these teams. They aren't, you know, either team's not like miles ahead of the other. And sure, this is okay for Taiki. He kind of wants to get a little bit more gold on the Karthus. Now got level 11, so 2 points in the Requiem. Kevo also farming up pretty well here. Wants to maybe get one more item before he feels very, very confident on the Ashe. Has hit the 2 item spike, which is nice for him, but you know, once you get that Infinity Edge tied in as well, it's even better. But like you said, it's an odd situation for both of these teams where ENCE just aren't contesting anything. And I think Barrage are maybe, I mean, if you're Barrage, you're okay taking this. You're basically getting given all of the objectives bar 1 Rift Herald, which I think you can live with losing.
And it's just like ENCE don't have anything to play for it. It's just a sad sort of place to be in. And you can see, because they've had to sort of yield so much lane priority and pressure, look how far up the vision line is for Barrage. Like, I don't think yeah, like, can we get a toggle on the ENCE vision too? Yeah,
oh, they see Doxy at least.
Yeah, I mean, they see Doxy, but Doxy's just going to walk down towards the river now. And this just becomes such a dangerous game. Because, you know, you take one wrong step, all of a sudden Malphite's on top of you. You take one wrong step, all of a sudden you got to flash away from a Solar Flare. And honestly, it all has to be reactionary.
I would have loved something, another tank in the top lane for Nilly. I would have liked something that, you know, could have engaged for them, because what it feels like is ENCE are a little scared because they don't actually have a front line. It's very easy, especially with Maxi, to be able to scatter the fight to make Kevo really exposed. And now they're going to hop over the wall with this Blast Cone, looking to contest. Look at Doxy coming in on the flank. He will be spotted out on the wards, though, as the True Shot Barrage hits onto Simply and Taiki, chunking them a little bit. Doxy's coming in. They do have that Ice Ball Gauntlet from Rye to slow down the members, and ENCE are actually getting poked out pretty effectively here. Doxy has not got the flash, so it's just gonna have to be an ultimate. He's gonna be able to fire out. Nilly's going around on the flank, using the Cloud Cell to get a bit of a cutoff here. It's the Cloud Dragon laying in a bit of damage onto the members. Nilly waiting to jump over the wall. The solar flare's there. There's the combo. There's the tidy up. Barrage already just open up on fire, and Nilly's not even in the fight yet. Taiki is able to steal away the dragon for his team as Kevo lands a big Ash Arrow. Here comes the rain, though, from the Requiem. Not going to be able to get anything as Maxi takes Taiki out before he can even crest the Archie. Barrage just mopping up easily there. 5 for none.
I don't even know what to say. It's honestly, I almost would have just preferred that ENCE just let the soul go over and they just try and flip it at the Elder Dragon.
It felt like they weren't ready for that fight, but they felt like they had to take it.
Yeah.
Nilly was like, okay, I'll go on the flank, and he kind of pitter-pattered his way around, and then at that point they got engaged on, and they felt like they were so scattered and just not prepared for the fight. Felt like they wanted another kind of 5-10 minutes on this game before they felt comfortable to fight. I mean, we can have a look at it again. Look at Nilly. He doesn't go in until everybody's almost dead already.
But the thing is, he can't really go in. Like, Maxi and Wendelbo can just keep him there. And that's kind of what ends up happening. Yes, does he kill? No, he doesn't even kill Senkox. Like, he tries, but he just doesn't have the damage in him. And it just kind of goes back to draft, right? You even just, like, briefly mentioned before we had this fight, maybe a frontliner would have been better. And for a situation like this, yes, I agree. Or just a side lane, just a side lane to play through, right? You have the double global from the Pantheon and then the Karthus. I mean, technically, Ashe is the third global too. Draft the side lane and you're playing into Malphite. There were plenty up and available. Yes, some of the best ones like Camille and Gangplank were gone, but you can drop down the list. And quite frankly,
Shen was open as well.
Yeah, I guess.
Could have just picked up his Shen again, but they decided not to. They wanted to go for the Renekton, and ultimately this has got a 0-2 Crocodile. Like you said, they didn't have a jungler that could play through it, so it's not a very scary Crocodile. There was a slight gold lead at the begining of this game for ENCE, but as you can see on your screens right now, especially after that team fight and the Baron, ballooned massively in favor of Barrage, and Wendelbo enough on his own is enough to scare Nilly away. Solar Flare is going to land as Taiki is going to get popped out of it.
I don't think ENCE will come back from this. Honestly, I think that the game state's too far gone. I think they're too far behind in gold, and they don't really have anything to play through. Barrage really just have to botch something, but look at, I mean...
Doxy does jump in, misses out on the R there, but loses half his health. Kevo then takes 1 barrel cast. That is going to be enough for him to go pretty low himself and look to reset. Mid lane tier 2 will fall down. Tier 1, tier 2 in the bot top and the bot lane are still up and available for Barrage to take, and that's just a lot of gold. That's more money for them.
Yeah.
ENCE aren't even going to make their way over to contest this one. Taiki's coming forward, but ultimately this could cost him his life as Wendelbo's threatening with the Zenith Blade.
Yeah, and like you say, all of these towers are effectively standing gold, so the graph is just going to get worse. And with Doxy forcing out the flash of Simply and Kevo, I mean, you just wait for the cooldowns to come back. I mean, I don't even think they'll kill Doxy here. Like, oh wait, they're TPing. Okay.
They are using everything for Doxy. Hit by the Ash Arrow nearly will slow him down, as this will be the end of days. Taiki's the one to secure the kill and to get themselves something, but they are still 6k down.
Okay, they get the pick, great. What's it like done? It's just gold. I mean, they might be okay. They might be able to convert bot tower, and that's a nice little injection of gold. But even then, Barrage is so far ahead, they can still kind of just force priority on the map wherever they want. At the moment, they don't even really care about the Cloud Dragon like spawning in a minute's time. They're playing towards the top lane and the top side camps. I'm still, if you can't tell, I'm really at kind of almost a loss for words.
It's a very strange game because it felt like both these teams set themselves up into a slightly janky position when some of the champions that were open were just not taken. But either so, Barrage have made the best of the situation, and they've ultimately been able to gain a grip on the game. They lost a little bit early, off the fact that Kev, I remember, got that double kill on Ashe, and then since then just hasn't really been that impactful. Partly due to the fact that he ran a heal in this lane and not the cleanse, meant that he had to play a little bit more scared of Wendelboe, of Maxi, of the CC chain that could come through. And now Kev has had to itemize away from the Infinity Edge. He's picked up an Executioner's Calling, and he's got that QSS to keep himself alive versus Wendelboe. So diverting a little bit. I mean, that's 1,300 gold he's invested into that QSS. That could be the BF sword with the 800 gold from the Executioner's Calling. That could be the Agility Cloak. He is, you know, if you actually think about what that gold is, that's 2/3 of the Infinity Edge, and had to invest into components that were more utility based. And with that, Barrage are able to rotate their pressure around the map and pick themselves up the Cloud Soul.
Yeah, and honestly, I think ENCE should have done this 5 minutes ago. I think they should have just given over the last dragon. Let Barrage get the soul and just try and flip it at this dragon. But I mean, they took the fight, they lost the Baron. He's gone by.
Nilly is just absolutely crushed there. Scatter the Weak onto free by Simply. Ashe Arrow is going to hit as well. The onslaught's there. Kevo's taking a lot of ult damage from Senkox. So Senkox will just flash forward and take him down easy as Taiki has to flash away. They get the belly bop off onto Steph. Steph puts the wall up, and the Senkox is doing so much work. Inhibitor in the bot lane will crumble to Barrage here. We had incredibly explosive game 1 and 2, but it feels like ENCE are just going out on a whimper. Wendelboe hunting down the members. Taiki maybe will be able to hold the wave with his passive, as Simply is going to get taken out by Rai. One more wave and this will be the game. Barrage got a pretty convincing game number 3 and take this series 2-1. Not before they killed Nilly one last time.
Kill Nilly one last time, and I mean, it was the Nilly pick that started off the push into the base there. And yeah, like you say, ENCE, they go out on a whimper, and it's kind of sad to see, because alongside, I think Tricked were the only team, realistically, at least in the main tournament, that kind of gave Barrage a run for their money. And they kind of just put themselves together a draft where, what do they play for from start to finish? All right, cool. They get this really big lead from Ashe and Pantheon. Great. What did they actually do with it? What did they achieve with it? The answer was practically nothing. They ended up having to give up a lot of bot lane priority because of the way that the fight ended up, and they had to take resets. And then in the long term, it turned into this dragon snowball where ENCE can't contest it. And yeah, it's one of those frustrating kind of like ends to a series where the teams quite clearly can contest each other, but one team just isn't in it, quite frankly. Just wasn't in it.
Unfortunately, it was a whimper for ENCE, and that's a shame, because Game 1 and 2 really proved that we were going to have a good series on our hands. And with that, though, Barrage probably knock out one of the strongest teams left in this tournament and get themselves into the finals tomorrow. Now, guys, we're going to throw to a quick break. And when we're back, we'll have our analyst desk to break that series down a little bit more. See you in a second.
Welcome back to the NLC, everybody. Barrage do take the series 2-1 over ENCE in a pretty dominant game 3. Now, before we get into the details and breaking that down, let's bring Doxy in for an interview because I'm going to start things off by chatting to him. So if he is ready to jump in, which I think he is, I think we can get into the interview. Yes, yeah, cool. It's just I was waiting for the scene to change and I can now see your beautiful face, Doxy. So, right. First of all, man, I feel like every time I chat to you, I'm like, what the hell happened game 2? So what the hell happened game 2?
Honestly, I think we just faltered a bit in draft. Like after the game, we talked about it, and it's like, okay, like this is one, like it's not the comfort, and like, yeah, it just fell apart. Also in game, I'm just like running it down, apparently dying 1v1 2 times in a row. I don't know what's going wrong with me as well. But yeah, just quickly fix it to game 3. Let's just get back on blue side and just stick to what we know, you know? And, yeah.
Were you expecting them to pick Karthus when you went for the Lucian? Were you expecting them to pick the Karthus?
I mean, it was like it was in the back of our mind, but we were not worried about it at all. Like we were even thinking like, okay, just pick it. Like probably even better for us this way.
Yeah. Well, obviously it worked out really well. Because we assumed it was Lucian mid, and we didn't think that they would take Karthus, and then we thought that you were going to take Karthus. But they obviously just sort of saw that and were like, okay, no, you're not going to get Karthus. We're going to take it. That was a good series, though. I think close series overall. ENCE obviously gave you a bit of a fight in that second game. I've got to ask you though, who do you expect to face in the final? Who do you think you're going to face, Dusty or Envision?
I guess it's going to be Dusty. Like most likely, right?
We all think it's Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna join the herd and say Dusty as well.
Join the herd.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean,
how's
hopefully.
the tournament?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, carry on. No, you go first.
No, you go first.
Doxy, don't do this to me. No, but I was going to ask you how the tournament has been so far. I was going to say like how things have been for you guys overall.
Honestly, it's been fine. Like, I'm not sure what the other guys would tell you, but like at least from my perspective, I got sick like 5 or 6 days ago, and I'm like recovering. But like the past two series, 3 series, I've just been running it down, dying almost 1v1 almost every single game. Like I don't know what's going on. Like if we're gonna win tomorrow, if it has to be a smooth sail tomorrow, like I have to like get myself together because it's going the wrong way right now. But so far, I guess like we made it to the finals, so yeah, it's gone as how we planned. Maybe dropped 2 games too many that we would liked, but we got here. So
you did. Yeah, I mean, you're in the finals now, so obviously we'll see you tomorrow, regardless of what happens. So as I'm trying to concentrate with my child screaming in the background, so obviously you have like a lot of stuff going on after the NLC. What are your plans and what is the team plans following the NLC full open? Like, what are you guys planning for the rest of the year? Have you got anything planned for coming up to next year?
Honest, that's really up in the air, I guess. Stick together or not, who knows? Time will tell.
It's a very mysterious answer, Doxy. I'll take your mysterious answer and leave it at that. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing you play it tomorrow. Hopefully you don't run it down. I don't think you're running it down half as bad as you think you are, but hopefully you don't run it down top tomorrow, and we get a great series out of you, because I'm sure we all think you're one of the best top laners in the tournament. So I'm glad you're doing really well. And I guess I'll get to see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Thanks much for that. Bye.
in the middle of that interview, I just hear the door just swing open, and then my Rupert's just there like, ah, like down the side, and I'm just there like, yes, this is really interesting.
Is Rupert an ENCE fan? Because he sounds pretty upset.
Oh god! All right, guys, let's have a look at the chosen player of the game here. Orcs, I think you're gonna run that through. So let's have a look at it.
Yeah, so I mean, this play really just highlights peak Malphite gameplay. It's on this dragon fight, which basically solidified the entire series. We can see both Doxy and Nilly looking for approaches on the flanks, but one of these is a lot more threatening than the other. Solar Flare comes down, ult comes down, and then watch Kevo. He's trying to auto attack. He cancels on there. He's got no attack speed. He's useless. Game's over. Fight's over. And although ENCE try and make it work on the backside, they do actually manage to get a fair amount of damage on the Senkuks. It's not enough. Huge impact coming out from that Malphite ult, and I think this was the point where I was watching it. I was like, okay, Barrage won.
it kind of just came down to a point where you felt, okay, ENCE has just run out of gas now, and I don't see how they're going to be coming back. Jamada mentioned it on cast as well. Like, he was baffled, didn't know what to speak about, really. But, you know, I kind of wanted to touch a bit about what Doxy was saying in the interview, how he's been getting solo killed a lot lately, but I don't think it's just Doxy's fault when I've been watching Barrage, because I actually feel they have faltered a bit at that level in general, actually, from what we saw at their peak towards the playoffs and finals, because they are making a lot of individual mistakes where they're limit testing a bit. We saw it in game 2 with the bot lane, and even in this game where they just kind of went in the early game, but we also see it in the map rotation. There's a lot of times where they look lost, where you don't see all members on the map and people are just overextending and just instead of just playing towards the communication, playing towards the lane states. And I kind of hope we are going to be watching a Barrage that will shape up in the finals, because yeah, they're winning now, but I'm not fully convinced of the level of this roster yet.
I agree. I actually, going back to summer, we saw this roster beat XL and actually challenge Fnatic, and I don't think it'd be capable of doing either of those things in its current form. I think they're still strong enough to beat out the likes of ENCE, but dropping a game and having some pretty rough plays, they're definitely not as strong as they were. And I think there's always potential for upset as a result. I think if they were coming in at the strength they were peak in summer, I think we wouldn't see them dropping games. But I think they really just aren't at the 100%. And that's where that window is to potentially exploit them.
Yeah, I think, especially seemingly mid-series, they seem to drop the ball a little bit. It's happened the 2 times that we've seen them struggle a little bit. They just seem to, like, I don't know why they changed draft. This is this is what boggles my mind, and we've seen them do it a few times. They decide to change things up when it works so well in the draft scenario in the first time round. But hey, look, we've got them in the finals now. They were expected to be there, and they are. So they have at least lived up to those expectations. We're going to see who they end up facing when we jump into our next series. And speaking of which, that's coming up after the break. So we'll see you soon.